Monday morning, and you're allowed to stumble along the way on the Monday morning. Good morning, this is Iain Lee. It's 2 minutes past 6, Monday the 10th of September. This is BBC Three Counties. Lots on the show this morning. Are you ready? Good. London 2012 is now over. I hear some of you breathing a collective sigh of relief. Ended with a spectacular closing ceremony last night for the Paralympics. What has been your highlight? Also, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. We'll be speaking about that later on. And I couldn't get my baby to sleep last night. We tried, I say we, my wife, tried the controlled crying method. Wasn't particularly successful. I need your help this morning, dear listener. How on earth do you get an 8-month-old baby to sleep through the night? You can get in touch, as always, throughout the show. You can text 81333, start your message with 3CR, tweet me at BBC 3CR, or, and this is what I'd rather you did, you can give me a phone call. 08459 455 555. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Even more excitingly, Peter Jones from Dragon's Den is coming on later in the show. I know, I'm well excited. I love Dragon's Den. He's my third favourite dragon. Duncan Bannatyne, Theopophatus, and then Peter Jones. Very tall man, isn't he? Billy Joel, huh? You can laugh, but he's good. I've had a very sleepless night, and I was sleeping in the spare room, so I should have been spared this. 8-month-old baby got into terrible sleeping habits while he's been away on holiday. And for all those concerned, yes, my wife and family came back on Friday, and it was wonderful. I've had a proper weekend of being a dad. My eldest, my 2.5-year-old, rode a donkey for the first time and loved it. And he went bonkers on a bouncy castle. Fantastic weekend. But, excuse me, couldn't get the baby to sleep last night. It was tough. My wife was doing the controlled crying. For those of you who don't know how this works, it's harsh. I'll explain the details of the controlled crying later on. It's harsh, but fair, I think, if it works. I do need your tips on getting babies to sleep, though. 08459 455 555. But, perhaps slightly more importantly, to the rest of the world, after last night's spectacular closing ceremony for the Paralympics, which I missed, but it's on the front page of all of the newspapers. Turns out there were lots of pink fireworks and Coldplay. More than 700 athletes will today take part in a parade to celebrate their success at London 2012. My sister's going to this, and I'm deeply envious. Including Three Counties athletes Laura Trott, Greg Rutherford and Victoria Pendleton. It's expected to be one of the greatest national celebrations in the capital in modern times, rivalling the turnout for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee and Olympic torch. Here's the thing. Are you going to go and see the parade today? Are you bunking off work? I suspect one or two people maybe pulling a bit of a sickie to go and see this. It's an historic moment, isn't it? So it's possible. 459 455 555. And as we get ready for the event, the parade today, let's have a look back on some of the successes from our local heroes this summer.
And Victoria Pendleton is the Olympic keirin champion.
Fantastic. Oh. We were... There's a little soft bit of music at the end. We were talking upstairs and saying, well, what's next in the calendar? We've had such an amazing year in terms of public celebrations and good things happening. Whatever you think of them, there have been huge celebrations. The Jubilee, followed by the Olympics, followed by the Paralympics. And I said, well, what's next? And Dashi, one of the production team, said, well, there's Halloween and bonfire nights. I kind of think that a local little bonfire night, however fantastic it may be, isn't really going to compare to the joy of the Olympics and the Paralympics, is it, really? And Halloween isn't a thing. I don't count Halloween as a thing. Yes, we may cut a pumpkin. We may start cutting a pumpkin and halfway through it regret it, because actually it's quite hard work and very messy. But it's not really a thing. Is there anything else coming up? There's nothing in it. This is why I mentioned Christmas at the start of the show. I love Christmas. And it is now only a few months away. But there's nothing else coming up, is there? Or maybe there is. Maybe you've got something coming up. Perhaps a wedding or a birth that we should be celebrating. Maybe there's something small that we should be celebrating that's a little bit better than Halloween and bonfire night. Oh, man. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. It's 6:15 on Monday the 10th of September. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. The Paralympics have come to an end with a spectacular closing ceremony featuring fire and light celebrating Britain's ancient traditions and festivals. A Buckinghamshire MP says she'll use all her energy to fight the high-speed rail link now she's out of the cabinet. Cheryl Gillan, the Tory MP for Chesham and Amersham, says HS2 should be consigned to the dustbin. In sport, in cricket, Hertfordshire side Reed are National Village champions after beating Yorkshire's five-time finalists Woodhouse Grange by 6 wickets at Lord's yesterday. We'll have them on the show a bit later on. Weather coming up soon, and also, before 7 o'clock, we'll be speaking to one of the stars of the BBC's first ever Asian sitcom, Citizen Khan.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's a packed show this morning. It's a cliche to say it's a packed show. It is actually a packed show. There's no two ways around it. I do need your help on finding out how to get my little boy to get to sleep, please. That's the key thing this morning. 8 months old, sleeping terribly, absolutely terribly. I need your tips. I'll explain what controlled crying is in a bit. It's not very pleasant, and some of you may think it's a bit harsh, but, oh man, we had a go last night, didn't work. Fantastic. Right, let's have a little bit of this, bit of Stevie Wonder. We're like a well-oiled machine this morning at BBC Three Counties. If you could see, it's like a duck swimming. Looks very smooth on top, under the water. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Stevie Wonder, for once in my life. Good morning, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio with your breakfast show. You can give me a call any time you want. 08459 455 555. Now, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. Suicide rates in England have declined over the last 10 years, according to the Department of Health. But the figures show that it's now middle-aged men who are at a greater risk of taking their own life. Today is all about creating awareness, as well as making sure people who attempt suicide get adequate treatment and follow-up care. But will it really be of any great benefit? Our reporter, Serena Farrow, asked 3 people who've all been affected by suicide. Anna from Luton, whose son took his own life, counsellor Anne Swift from Hitchin in Hertfordshire, and volunteer Liz from the Bedfordshire Samaritans.
Any resources are available to people who are feeling suicidal, the better the chance there is that a life may be saved. A whole mixture of people's input. So yes, the doctor on the medical side, yes, counsellors, but sometimes those people aren't available, and Samaritans are there 24 hours a day. Quite often the worst times at 3 o'clock in the morning when things seem to be unsurmountable. But if there's somebody there that can just calm you down and make you feel, well, I can cope until tomorrow morning, and then I can see somebody who can help.
I lost Joe just over 2 years ago. He was 31. He died by hanging. So the violent end. I had a great deal of care from volunteers who kept in touch pretty well on a daily basis. I think anything that brings a sharper focus onto people who are at risk of harming themselves has got to be a good thing.
I'm here to help people come to a decision, and it's got to be their decision. And if somebody comes and they feel suicidal, the first thing I do is send them to the doctor. When people get suicidal, they really do feel out of control. That's what it's all about. They don't know which way to go. And the only way out would seem to them at that time, that's what they've got to do. It's desperate, really. What I say to people that I think feel suicidal is ask them to make a contract with me. In this room, we think of 3 people that they will ring if they feel that way. But they will ring that person and say, I am having a really near suicide experience here. And that's a little bit of insurance, and sometimes that works quite well.
And you know that's worked, can we say, in the past?
Oh, yes, it has. I had somebody who, probably dead by now, I should think, of natural causes, hopefully, came and said that they had gone into the garage and they had started to put things into place to kill themselves, and the phone rang and it didn't happen, but they came and told me, and I knew that we had to put something in place for them, and that's what we did. That's
our reporter Serena Farrow speaking to 3 people in Beds and Herts who've been affected by suicide, and all agree that World Suicide Prevention Day is a good thing. Now, I have been talking, and I will continue to talk this morning because I'm very, very tired. I have 2 children, 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old. And the 8-month-old is sleeping terribly. You can't even call it sleep. It's not even sleep. They're just in the bed and just crying. And last night my wife tried the brave step of the controlled crying. Now, if you don't know what this is basically, you put the baby to bed, you let them cry for 5 minutes, then you go in, you don't pick them up, you leave them on the thing, say, there, calm down. You come out, you let them cry for 10 minutes. Then you go in, pat them down, then you come out and let them cry for 15 minutes, and you go on, and eventually they should fall asleep. Yeah, I know. Apparently it works. It worked with our first, but it worked on, I think, the second or maybe the third night. Last night, I could hear, was very stressful. Any tips you've got for getting kids to get to sleep? 08459 455 555. Ben is in Buckingham. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ian.
You've got kids, have you?
Yeah.
How old? I believe one's 5 and one is something else.
One's 5 and one's 7 now.
OK, and how did you get this to work?
It's that you can buy this special light. It's the size of the plug socket.
Yeah.
And it lights up the room and it helps them sleep because it gives them like a little bit of light they need.
Oh, so like a night light?
Yeah.
We've got the night lights, and we do it because for some reason my 2.5-year-old is convinced that there are monsters in his room, and my wife is all about saying, well, there's no such thing as monsters, and I'm going, well, yeah, there might be monsters in your room, but they're friendly monsters. It's a difference of opinion when it comes to bringing up children. But the night light, how did that help your baby sleep?
It's because one of them's just really hard at sleeping.
Yeah.
And the second one has still got problems sleeping, so she has to have special medication.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What kind of medication are you giving to help?
These special tablets that are slow releasing and it helps them sleep.
Is this a medical condition that the kiddie's got?
Yeah, because she's got learning difficulties.
Ah, okay. So this kind of helps them relax and chill out a little bit. I see. Yeah. Ever been tempted to take those pills yourself, Ben?
No.
I'm joking, of course. I would never recommend anything like that. Ben, listen, thank you very much for your tip.
Yep, thank you.
Cheers, mate. There we go. 08459 455 555. I need some tips. We're really at a loose end. Oh, it's the best song in the world. I'll shut up. It's the Monkees' Daydream Believer. That is actually the best song in the world. There is no arguing about it. It is the greatest song of all time.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Lots on the show this morning. London 2012, now over. Some of you breathing a sigh of relief. I think it went on just long enough. Just long enough. But it ended with a spectacular closing ceremony last night for the Paralympics. 2 questions come from this. What's been your highlight? For me, it was when I went to the Paralympics and I saw a world record being broken twice in the women's powerlifting. I know, it's a very niche sport. I've never seen a world record being beaten. Fantastic. And what's next? What's next in the calendar to look forward to? There's nothing really. It's all just kind of bleak and miserable. Now, 08459 455 555, and I think the important news story of the day is I could not get my baby to sleep last night. We're trying the controlled crying method. Takes a few days. It's heartbreaking. How did you get your kids to sleep? 08459 455 555. You can text as well, 81333. Start your text 3CR or email 3cr@bbc.co.uk. Now, this is just an incredible story that is going to run and run for a bit, I think. Let's get the latest on the investigation into the murder of 3 members of a British family who were shot dead while on holiday in France last week. A 7-year-old girl who was badly injured in the attack has now been taken out of a medically induced coma in a French hospital. Her 4-year-old sister has returned to the UK, where police in Surrey have been searching the family home and speaking to relatives. The girl's parents and a woman believed to be their grandmother were murdered, along with a French cyclist near a lake in the southeast of France. Our reporter, Gavin Lee, is following the events. Good morning, Gavin.
Yeah.
This is the first bit of positive news that we've heard, isn't it? I mean, as positive as you can be, that both girls appear to be recovering now.
Yeah, I mean, it is, especially when you hear about Zainab, the 7-year-old eldest sister, the condition she was in last week. She was shot in the shoulder, she had a fracture of the skull, she was put into a medically induced coma by French medical staff just to stop the body, essentially, so it could concentrate on recovering. She is now out of that medically induced coma. She's under sedation in hospital. She has, some of her family were told, with her uncle uncle and her aunt at her bedside, and she is thought to be the key witness in all of this, the one that police say can give them some hope in trying to piece together some detail about who or how many people were involved in the attack last Wednesday in this beautiful part of France in the foothills of the Alps. They said that she is not in a fit state yet to be interviewed, though, and the youngest of the two, Zina, who we all know now, was hidden under the body of her mum for 8 hours before she was found unharmed. She was deeply traumatised. She has said to the police over the weekend, and through British consular staff who've been helping and psychologists, that she did not see anything, so she's flown back to the UK. She's now in the care of social services, and child psychologists are helping.
You may not know this, Gavin, but the older child, you say she's out of the coma. Can she speak? Is she conscious?
She's under sedation, so I guess she's slowly probably able to say very few words to her aunt and uncle, but certainly not in a fit enough state to be giving any more than that. There's a few interesting things it's probably worth me mentioning to you in the last couple of days or so, because there was this one theory, wasn't there, about the row between the two brothers, that French police had said Saad al-Hili, the adult, the father of the two girls who was killed, along with Iqbal, his wife, and what we believe to be his mother-in-law. Zaid is the name of the brother. French police have said they got an issue about a financial dispute. He has taken himself to British police, to Surrey police, to say that he knew nothing of this. There was no financial issue, so the French are now saying that they see this as a cautious line of inquiry, that they will still like to speak to Saad al-Hili, but they would like to speak to him just as any other member of the family, as a witness, so we expect that to happen too. There's something else coming from the French builders. Now this is something that hasn't been mentioned before by police. French builders in the area near this village where the car was found in the southeast of France, they say they saw the al-Hili family car not long before they were all shot dead, and the builders noticed it was a British registered car. They saw the family in it, and there was no other vehicle following that car. Now, if that's the case, it would lend credibility to the idea that this was a targeted ambush, that whoever killed the family, were waiting there knowing it would stop, and that's one of the theories the French police are saying they are working on.
Gavin, it's a mystery that goes on and on. Thank you very much. That's our reporter, Gavin Lee, and it's just I was watching this on the news last night with my wife, and it seemed kind of, that the police were clutching at straws, really. It's just one of those things. Terrible, terrible story. It'll be interesting to see how it progresses. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. What is there to look forward to now that the Olympics and the Paralympics are over? Is there anything in your diary that we should be celebrating? Do let me know. Speak to you after this. 6:40. Where are we? Monday the 10th of September. It's nearly Christmas. I'm looking forward to... Oh, I'm sorry. I'll turn your microphone. You can fiddle with your microphone. Don't worry.
Sorry.
You can fiddle with the microphone. I thought you were a professional broadcaster. Turns out you're as amateur as I am. For goodness sakes. Now, many of us remember the comedy sketch show Goodness Gracious Me, the hit BBC Two comedy series from the 90s that poked fun at British and Asian stereotypes. Well, the latest Asian comedy show... we've not had many. It's been about 15 years. No, more than since that. That's got people talking is BBC One's Citizen Khan, and it stars BBC Three County Radio very own Nish Nathwani, who's here with me now. Good morning, Nish.
Hey, yeah.
And do you want to mess around the microphone anymore?
No. I'll do it afterwards.
You sure?
Yeah.
Now, listen, this is only my day 3 here, so forgive me. I didn't know that you worked at Three Counties. I didn't know we had a boxing reporter.
Yeah, as and when, and,
When was the last time they called up your services to report on boxing?
Going back a while ago, the boxer we've got at the moment is a guy called Billy Joe Saunders, who had a long-term injury, but he's back and he's, doing really well now.
You passed the test, you know your stuff. What part do you play in Citizen Khan?
I play Riaz, the Mosque Undertaker.
Yeah. It's a good title.
Exactly, yeah. And, don't want to say too much, but he's a friend of Khan's.
Yeah.
Or at least he thinks he's a friend of Khan's.
Right.
And bit of a trigger character, really.
Right.
From,
Yeah.
And as the...
See, I think in these kind of programmes, I think it's good if you're not playing the main person, because the pressure's off you a bit, and you can always guarantee to get a few good lines in there and a few good bits and pieces. So I think that with a sitcom, the star is always the one that's going to get the most praise or the most criticism. So I think just being off to the side, like Trigger, as you say, is a fantastic character in Fools and Horses.
You look for those sort of... those those characters you look for when they come on, you're like, okay, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? So it's great for me.
What is the show about? I'll be honest, I've not seen it. I'm aware of the character of Citizen Khan because he was in Bellamy's People, as you said, which is a spin-off from Down the Line, which is one of my favourite shows.
Okay,
so just briefly explain what the series is about.
The series is about this pretty much self-appointed community leader, Citizen Khan, played by Adil Ray. And him and his, if you like, his misdemeanors. He's a typical dad, husband that anybody from any community could relate to. He's an embarrassing, frustrating, annoying dad and husband, really. And sort of, the shenanigans that go on with him.
Now, it's had mixed reviews. I bring this up only because I was in a sitcom a couple of years ago called The Persuasionists, which was so successful it got moved from its Tuesday night 9:30 slot to 1 a.m. on a Sunday morning, so it could draw its big audience over to what is perceived as a dead slot. And it got stinky reviews. But do you know what? I'm really proud of it. Do you take any notice of the reviews? Are you proud of what you've achieved in this? How do you react to reviews? 'Cause we don't like getting bad ones.
No, I mean you don't. I mean I have seen. I'd be lying if I said I haven't seen the the odd review. I have seen it. I've seen, to be honest, one review. I won't say where, but I've seen one review. Great, but for me, this is all a learning curve as well. Do you know what I mean? And I think, hey, you're in the industry. You're in the industry yourself, Ian, and it goes part and parcel of the job. And if no one's writing about you, then maybe you need to knock a bit harder. I think it's all good. Just. It's all good, and just carry on doing what you're doing to the best of your ability.
Exactly, that's the right attitude. People still say, "Why did you do The Persuasionists?" Well, because I thought it was quite funny, actually. And I got paid £10,000. Yeah, that's why I did it. So thank you very much.
Yes, exactly.
How did you get involved with it? I'm assuming you're an actor.
Yes, I'm an actor, and for this particular thing, like any actors, as you'd know, you have an agent. Your agent, casting directors approach your agent. You got for a casting with this particular one. I went up for a casting. It was a lengthy process. A casting at TV Centre, where Adil and Nick Wood and co were, and from there they said, "Yeah, we're happy with you," and things have kind of slightly changed. But we want you to come back and do a 3-day workshop at RADA and perform 2 episodes. Done that with another stand-up comic by name of Felix Dexter.
Felix Dexter's brilliant.
Yeah,
he's a legend.
He is. Yeah. And on the back of that, they said to Felix, "Yeah, we really like you. However, will you come back and do another 2-day workshop at RADA and perform 2 more episodes?" After that, with the commission and the editor there and the head of comedy and the producer and all the rest of it, and we found out that great, we'd got the part. So
fantastic. Listen, it's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet another member of the Three Counties staff, and I wish you the best of luck with the series.
Thank you, mate.
Don't go on Twitter.
You know what? I'm not on it.
Good.
Can I just say though, please watch it tonight?
Yeah, it's on tonight. 10:35, BBC One.
BBC One.
It's fantastic.
Cheers.
Excellent stuff. Right, it's time for this. Thank you, Sophie. It's 6:45 on Monday, the 10th of September. These are the headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. A summer of Olympic and Paralympic sport will be brought to end later today with a victory parade through central London. Cheryl Gillan, the Tory MP for Chesham and Amersham, is promising to use all her energy to fight the high-speed rail link now she's out of the cabinet. In sport, in rugby's championship, Bedford drew 38-all at Rotherham yesterday, with the home side awarded a penalty try in the dying seconds. Weather, we're in for a cloudy day with the chance of a few light showers. Top temperature is 21 degrees. And coming up, a parade is planned in London to celebrate the Olympics all over again. We'll find out more after 7.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Right, that's Dion, The Wanderer. Now, Dion is fantastic. He did a brilliant album in the 70s, the name of which escapes me, produced by Phil Spector. Here's a question, and I'm setting everyone a challenge. Is Dion still alive? If he is, can we get him on the show, please? I want a Dion Hunt. I want Dion... Can't remember what his last name is. He's got a last name, I know he has. I want Dion on this show, if he's still with us. If he's not, then I pass on my wishes to his family. But he's fantastic. What a voice. What a voice. Speaking of voices, I'm about to do something I never thought I'd do on the radio. I'm going to read you some poetry. Let's see how this goes. 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less travelled by, and that has made all the difference. You can tell that's a poem because it rhymes a little bit. They're the last words of The Road Not Taken by the American poet Robert Frost. Here's an interesting thing that I didn't know until the weekend. Robert Frost lived in Buckinghamshire. Beaconsfield. I know Beaconsfield very well indeed. He lived there with his wife and children. And to mark the occasion, a performance will be put on in Beaconsfield Old Town with readings of Frost poems and an outline of his time there. In a minute, we'll be speaking to the scriptwriter, but first, let's find out about Frost's connection with Buckinghamshire. Sophie Solaria met Carrie from the Beaconsfield Society.
I was a young librarian working in my first job almost at Beaconsfield Library. I was quite embarrassed at first because I used to get these American writers and professors knocking on the library door saying, "Where's Robert Frost's bungalow?" Of course, I was completely unaware of the connection between Beaconsfield and Robert Frost. Robert Frost and his family came to Beaconsfield 1912. He was here with his 4 children, and he stayed for about 2 years. He wrote some of his most famous poetry. He was obviously inspired by Beaconsfield, and I always felt this was completely forgotten local history, which something Beaconsfield should be proud of. Here we are, arriving at the library.
And this is where you came for all your years as a librarian?
Yes, this is where I worked for nearly 20 years, I think. Here's the girls. Hello. Hello, Donna. So here we see a picture of the bungalow and the children outside. And that photo was taken in 1913 when they were here. And around the display you can see great poster-sized poems which he wrote in Beaconsfield. He wrote the poem Virtues. He wrote After Apple Picking. My long 2-pointed ladders sticking through a tree towards heaven still, and there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it. You know, the fact is that when he was in Beaconsfield, he actually sat down and wrote it.
He got his inspiration from here.
Yes, he's got his inspiration from Beaconsfield.
This is a picture of the bungalow. Can you take me to where it once stood?
Yes, of course. We will take a walk. So here we have the house that has been built on the site. This is where he lived. This is where the bungalow was. It had an extensive garden with, apple and pear trees, and it backed on to a lovely cherry orchard at the back. They were very, very happy with the bungalow. It was very cramped. I mean, it was small, but they were still happy to be here.
And on the wall just outside the house, a plaque, a green circular plaque saying Robert Frost, the great American poet, lived on this site.
We decided to do it off our own bat, and we had it designed. We negotiated with Jeff Taylor and his wife that lived here and who had bought this house. They were delighted to do it. It turned out to be such a lucky coincidence that they were Anglo-American couple. So, of course, they thought the world of Robert Frost and were very honoured to have the plaque on the low wall in front of their house.
Well, with us now is Linda Hart, an American expert on Robert Frost. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, Ian.
Why did Robert Frost choose to come to Beaconsfield, of all places? I'm guessing it wasn't because it was near the M40.
No, he was farming and teaching in New Hampshire, wasn't getting many poems published, wanted to get away from everything and escape somewhere. So the choice was going to the wilds of Canada or coming to England. The family tossed a coin, and heads was England, and England won. So he got to London.
Hang on, sorry, Linda, did they really toss a coin to make that decision?
Yeah, his daughter remembers them tossing a coin.
Fantastic.
Absolutely, he tossed a coin, and it was England that won. And 100 years ago, first day or two in September, they arrived in London, and he was looking in a magazine and saw some articles about the countryside around London. So what a way to go house hunting, Ian. He went to the editorial offices of this magazine and said, can somebody help me find a house somewhere around London in nice countryside? And I guess somebody there knew that a new railway line had just come through Beaconsfield in 1909, and that meant that New Beaconsfield was developing and houses were being built. So all we know is that somebody in this magazine office recommended that he go to Beaconsfield.
You mentioned the daughter. She's not still with us, is she? She passed on.
She passed on, but I do know her daughter, who is a Frost scholar in America, and no, it's all been documented about his tossing.
Listen, Linda, I believe you. I'm not in any way questioning. Who is this fraud we've got on making up some nonsense about tossing a coin? No, of course I believe you. You say it's been 100 years since he came to Beaconsfield. What's happening to mark the occasion?
Well, Iain, you said a few minutes ago, is there anything in your diary we should be celebrating after the Olympics? So I would like to answer your question.
Put it in, you're good, go on.
Well, say that this Saturday in Beaconsfield, there are going to be two performances of an event called the English Years of Robert Frost. I wrote the script, but it's going to be performed mainly by an actor called Gabriel Wolfe, who's been on the radio and on TV for many, many years. And I will tell the story of Frost's time in England. Gabriel will be reading some of these wonderful poems, the letters that Frost wrote home, poems and letters that he wrote when he was at the bungalow, and in 1 hour we will tell this amazing story about the risk he took in coming over here. He didn't know a soul. He had 4 young kids with him. His 2 books were published. His first 2 books of poems were published in London, and when he went back to America in 1915, he was being hailed as a great new American poet. So that's the story that we will tell, how all of that happened.
Linda, how are you getting finance to put this on? Is this coming out of your own pocket?
No. There is the wonderful Beaconsfield Society who is sponsoring it, and the most important point is the firm of A.C. Frost, estate agents, now called the Frost Partnership. They had an office next to the railway station. When Robert Frost arrived in Beaconsfield to look for a house, he must have seen the sign saying A.C. Frost. He must have had a bit of a laugh, and he went in, and John Frost, the current managing director of the Frost Partnership, his great-grandfather remembers Robert Frost coming in, and they rented Frost, the bungalow on Reynolds Road, that Kari has just explained to you about the plaque, etc.
Fantastic. Linda, listen, we've got to move on. I wish you the best of luck. I love things like this. And well done the Beaconsfield Society for putting it on. Superb. Linda Hart, who's an expert on Robert Frost, and you can see that event over the weekend. Superb stuff it is. Thank you very much, Linda. This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up in the next hour. I do need your tips on getting babies to sleep. And what have we got to look forward to now that the Olympics are all over? All that and more after the news with Catherine Boyle. Good morning, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio. Here until 9 o'clock. Plenty coming up in the next 2 hours. Coming up in this hour, London 2012 is now over. Ended with a spectacular closing ceremony last night for the Paralympics. 2 questions. What's been your highlight? And what have we got to look forward to next? Anything? Apart from the fantastic Robert Frost event that's happening at the weekend, the calendar's a little bit bleak. If you've got something that we should know about, do give us a call. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. We'll be speaking about that a bit later on. And we're struggling at home. We're struggling. I can't get my 8-month-old baby to sleep. Any tips? You can give me a text, 81333. Start your message with 3CR. You can tweet at BBC 3CR. Or you can give me a phone call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Are you going to the parade later on today in London? My sister's going. I got a text yesterday from my sister saying, we're going to the Olympic parade on Monday, if you fancy it. I was like, yeah, I'm up at 4. I'm probably going to be tired. So I'm going to miss it. But The greatest Paralympic Games ever. Those are the words of Sir Philip Craven, the International Paralympic Committee President. London 2012 did come to an end last night with a spectacular closing ceremony for the Paralympics. But today, 700 athletes will take part in a parade to celebrate their success at London 2012. And whatever you think about it, and I did start off these Olympics as a huge cynic, not a fan of sport, really dreading it, and I was completely turned around. The moment I saw the torch being carried in Luton by Lewis Hamilton and others, I got sucked into it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the whole thing. But there today will be three counties athletes, Greg Rutherford, Victoria Pendleton and Laura Trott. Very exciting. We've got Laura's dad, Adrian, on the line now. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning.
What are you going to be doing today?
We're going to be watching the parade from somewhere along the Mall. I'm just waiting to greet everybody come home.
Have you got a top-secret VIP location, or are you going to be in with the hoi polloi?
I don't think the location is secret, but it's the ticketed area along the Mall.
Superb.
Courtesy of Procter & Gamble.
Fantastic. And what time does the march start? What's the running order for today?
It's leaving Guildhall at 1 o'clock. It's making its way down through the city. And then it's going to be held at Trafalgar Square, which I think the last sort of bit where the public can see. And then move into the Mall. Not quite sure what's going to happen along the Mall, but say it's ticketed and it's going to be games makers, representatives of the armed services, family and friends.
Listen, I'm a dad of two boys. They're nippers, but I am already immensely proud when they do anything. I can't begin to imagine what it must feel like for you in your position to see Laura do so well, and then to see her take part in this historic parade today. Can you describe the feelings?
You can't, because it's all very numbing, really, because they're always your children, and they're surrounded by people that you look at as being superstars. So Chris, Vicky, people that Laura's grown up looking at. And now she's up there with them, but it doesn't change who she is, and you still look at her. You'd still wander up to Chris Hoyt and say, "Well done, mate."
Fantastic.
Because it's only Laura.
Yeah.
It is really weird to try and get that across to people, but it doesn't change the fact that they're your children.
How is she feeling? Has it sunk in yet? I'm guessing it might take a little while for all of this to kind of fade away a bit, for it to actually sink in exactly what she's achieved and what she's been part of. How has she been?
Well, for the last week she's been on holiday, so...
good for her. Anywhere nice?
She's been to Dubai.
Superb.
I think we can say that.
Okay.
Now she's more or less back at Heathrow, so... I don't know. She seems to take it very much in her stride. You've seen her chatting on the telly. That's very much how she is. I think the attention, well, I won't say got to her, but it was hard work a couple of weeks before they got their week off. A lot of demands, but she's enjoyed it. Whether she realises exactly what she's been part of, I think that's only something you will come over years. I think us and the public generally looking in realise how great this has been.
You mentioned the demands, and that's interesting, because normally if you're an athlete, you kind of... It's not particularly glamorous. It's a lot of getting up at 4 a.m, doing your work, and it's all solitary, and every now and then you might get a pat on the back and a medal. But this Olympics in particular... Everyone, even the winners and those who didn't win medals from the Team GB, have been treated almost like pop stars. They've become celebrities.
They have. I think that is credit to the British public. The way, well, as you said yourself, you weren't a fan, you were a skeptic. And I think so many people along the way, all of a sudden, there's been a trigger. I know people that I work with weren't interested when they lost out in the ballot initially. Then all of a sudden were just buying any tickets to get into the park. They've supported the para games. Haven't gone to 3, 4, 5 sessions again because they came to that late. The nation's just embraced it.
I had a day at the Excel Centre last week watching women's Paralympic powerlifting, some table tennis and sit-down volleyball. Sit-down volleyball. And I was kind of thinking, we'll go along, be part of it. It was one of the best days I've had in a long, long time. I met up with some friends there. It was superb. I saw a world record being broken, Adrian. I've never seen that before. It's amazing to be part of that.
It is.
Yeah.
And this is how it's grabbed people, and it doesn't matter whether it was the Excel, whether it was table tennis, powerlifting, basketball at the North Greenwich Arena. People just got into it. We went and saw some handball. We were lucky to have a GB game there, but Croatia versus Hungary, I think, was the other game. Fantastic atmosphere in the Copper Pot.
It didn't matter what nation it was it? That was the thing. I thought, I'm not going to... I saw a Team GB lad playing table tennis, and that was it. And I was thinking, really? Russia versus Germany in sit-down volleyball? But it was it's the atmosphere, and it was being part of it. It was fantastic.
And it's just seeing all these different sports as well.
Listen, Adrian, I'm going to wish you the best luck. Enjoy the day.
Thank you very much.
As one dad to another, it don't get no better than that, I'm sure. So just have a fantastic day and be proud of your little girl.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Adrian. That's Adrian Trott, Laura Trott's dad. Super. And when you are a parent, just the smallest thing makes you proud and excited. My boy rode his first donkey yesterday. And he was with his mum, and I was watching them, and she was kind of holding his back, and he kept pushing her hand away because he wanted to do it on his own. Oh, my God, I was proud of that. Imagine if he'd won a gold medal. Imagine if he was in an Olympic parade. I don't think I could stand it. Superb. Adrian, have a fantastic day, and all of the parents and all of the athletes. It's going to be great. Are you going to that today? Do give me a call, let me know. 08459 455 555. And also, what have we got to look forward to now that the Jubilee and the Olympics are over? Everything's going to be a bit of an anticlimax, isn't it? There's nothing really on the calendar that's going to grab us by the throat. 08459 455 555. We were talking about Dion earlier on. Dion and the Belmonts, remember them? The Wanderer. Then he had a superb album in the 70s, the name of which escapes me. And my mission that I've set myself and my team is to find out if he's alive. That's the easy bit. We think he might be. And if he is, get him on the show. Mark's in Bletchley. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Ian. How you doing,
I'm
mate?
good, thank you. You've got some Dion info, have you?
Yeah, Dion's still about, actually.
Yes.
If I had I've got no internet connection at the moment, or I'd go and see what he's doing on his Facebook page.
Hang on, Dion's on Facebook?
Yeah, Dion DiMucci. You'll find he's got one of those like pages sort of thing. So, and he does update on his shows. His mates like Bobby Rydell and Charlie Gracie. He does. He's very interactive, and he's got thousands and thousands of followers.
Oh man, we're going on his Facebook page today, Mark, and we are going to click the like button and ask him to come on the show. That's so modern. Mark, you'll know this. What was the album he did with Phil Spector that I'm thinking of?
There's been 2 or 3 in the 70s.
It was the one that's got "Make the Woman Love Me" on it.
Oh no, I don't know that one.
Oh man, it's wonderful.
There was an album in the 70s. I think it was called The Radio Good Guys.
Right.
And it was released on the Philips label, and it was the album cover consisted of how they speak in the Bronx, and you had to be able to read it.
Superb.
They do these the way they speak in the Bronx, and it was written like that on the album. I've got that one somewhere.
Mark, listen, I'm going to find out the name of this Phil Spector one because it's wonderful. Mark in Bletchley, thank you. This is the great thing about doing a show like this, is I can think things and throw those thoughts out, and within minutes you get people like Mark calling in saying, "Oh yeah, I can help with that." Dion DiMucci's on Facebook. Of course he is. It's 2012. Where else would he be? My mission, dear listener, and I'm going to work blooming hard at this. When I say I'm going to work hard, I'm going to send several texts and emails to my producer to make sure she works blooming hard on this. Let's be honest, I'm not actually going to do much groundwork myself. We will do our best to get Dion on the radio. and get him on this show. Wouldn't that be fun? It's Monday the 10th of September, it's 7:15. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Members of the British Paralympic and Olympic teams will mark the end of a summer of sport with a victory parade in London this afternoon. Cheryl Gillan, the Tory MP for Chesham and Amersham, is vowing to use all her energy to fight HS2 now she's no longer a cabinet member. In sport, Andy Murray will attempt to win his first Grand Slam title tonight as he plays in the US Open final. Murray faces defending champion Novak Djokovic, who won his semi-final against David Ferrer in 4 sets. We'll have a full weather bulletin in a few moments with Steve Weston, and coming up before 8am, we'll be speaking to the MP for Chesham and Amersham, Cheryl Gillan, about her opposition to HS2.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I do need your tips on getting my baby to sleep. This is a genuine. This isn't a. Oh, we need to fill in a little bit of radio. This is a genuine plea. If I'm going to be getting up at 4:00 in the morning for you, dear listener, I'm doing it for you. I'm going to need to get some sleep, and I didn't get any sleep last night, even though I was in the spare room. So, how do you get an 8-month-old baby to sleep? We're doing the controlled crying. Is that actually going to work? Does that always work? If you've done it, did it work for you, or did you give up? Have you got any other tips? Well, someone, a friend of a friend said, oh, give him a little, nip of whiskey. What? He's 8 months old. Oh, no, not a nip. You just dip your finger in it, or the dummy. He hasn't got a dummy. Or dip the teat of the bottle in the whiskey, and then get him to have a slurp on that. I don't think so. No, maybe in the war you would have done that, but you wouldn't do that in 2012. That's bad. That's got to be bad parenting, hasn't it? 08459 455 555, or you can text 81333. Start your text 3CR. Should we have a quick look at the front pages of the newspapers? They're all pretty much the same thing, really. It's all about the closing ceremony of the Paralympics last night and the end of 2012. It started off as a bit of a joke to me. It's ended up being an inspiration. I would suggest it's gone on long enough. I think we kind of reached the zenith, the tipping point of how much sport we could stand in our house. But superb. So the front, all of these have got amazing photos. The front page of The Guardian, goodbye to Britain's golden summer. And it's just an amazing a picture of fireworks and the whole stadium going absolutely crazy. The Times, from the Heart London 2012. I don't like their kind of fake covers that they've got, so I kind of tend to go into the inside cover. And an amazing picture of David Weir celebrating with his 1-year-old son. Look at that, the little boy sat on his daddy's lap on his wheelchair, sucking on a dummy with a gold medal round his neck. Fantastic. I love the little tummies. The little tummies that the 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds have. Little Buddha tummies. Love that. They are little round things. I love it. Fantastic. The Telegraph. The summer of love. Hey, man. The summer of love has passed. Well, I'm not quite sure there was love. Really? This greatest of all sporting seasons closed with millions hoping the spirit set free by the Olympics and Paralympics can achieve a lasting hold. Paul Hayward of The Telegraph there, using very flowery prose. And good for him. Why not? The Telegraph, all over in a blaze of glory. But, the Express is all over in a blaze of glory. But they can't leave it there. This is why the Express is so wonderful, because half of it is all over in a blaze of glory. Fireworks at the stadium. But the bottom half of the front page, 80 miles per hour gales to hit Britain. We're all doomed. Perfect storm on way as Hurricane Michael brings end to record heatwave. Gales of up to 80 miles per hour will batter Britain this week as a perfect storm threatens to sweep across the country. We're all doomed. Good weather at the weekend, wasn't it? I think Sunday was the last summer's day we're going to get. I think that's it now. We'll find out in a minute. We've got Steve Weston coming on. It's been a blast. 1 billion watch Paralympics Heroes finale. And there's also How My Father Killed Himself by Lord Lucan's son. Lord Lucan's son looking remarkably like Kevin O'Sullivan, the TV critic. The Independent, there is a flame that will never go out. And The Sun, heartfelt farewell to Paralympics. Closing spectacular wows millions. And there's a picture of Chris Martin from Coldplay. Yeah? And Rihanna. And then there's a tiny box. X Factor loses 3 million viewers. He's not doing too well, is he, Cal, with the X Factor and Red or Black looking like it's being scrapped. Now, it's 7:22. A campaign has been launched today by the Lymphoma Association to mark the start of Lymphatic Cancer Awareness Week. the little-known but common form of cancer, is more likely to strike young people than any other form of the disease. Linda Edmonds from Aylesbury suffers from lymphoma. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning.
Linda, can you tell me, what is lymphoma or lymphatic cancer?
Lymphatic cancer is a blood cancer, so it's mainly in the blood, but it affects the lymphatic system, and you have lymph nodes all over your body, and one of the main symptoms is a lump in the neck, but there's lots and lots of very bizarre symptoms that go along with lymphoma.
What are some of the bizarre symptoms?
They can be very non-specific, as in just feeling really, really tired for no apparent reason, being very pale, tummy pains, very, very bizarre. Each person experienced different symptoms.
What was the first thing that you experienced, Linda? You thought, hang on, there might be a problem here.
I think that the two symptoms that I had were abdo pains, tummy pains, and feeling an overwhelming tiredness, a tiredness that I really didn't know how to put one foot in front of the other. Night sweats are another symptom, but I didn't experience night sweats.
And this exhaustion, when it came on, did it kind of come on suddenly? One day you were fine, and the next day you're like, oh my goodness, I can't even get out of bed? Or was it a gradual progression?
No, excuse me, that's the other bizarre thing about this disease. I started actually feeling unwell in January 2010. Didn't go to my doctor until the following June.
Oh, Linda.
Only because the symptoms came and went.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was finding it really difficult to eat because I was feeling nauseous, and the tummy pains were getting more frequent, that I thought, hang on a minute, something's really not quite right here. And it was a friend. I actually spoke to a friend and said to her that I'd felt very unwell, and she bullied me into going to the doctor.
Good for her. I know it's men that are often accused of not going to the doctor, you know, sucking up and being a man. Listen, if I get a twinge, I'm straight down the doctor's. I'm taking no chances, Linda.
Well, I must admit, I've worked in healthcare for 30 years, so I should have known better.
Yeah.
That's how bizarre this illness is. The symptoms are so bizarre. They come and they go.
How does it affect you on a day-to-day basis?
At the moment, really quite badly. I'm in the process of chemotherapy at the moment. Excuse me. And I am experiencing an awful lot of tummy pains, feeling very, very unwell, and having no energy at all. So hopefully, when I finish my course of chemotherapy, it will be put into remission. In younger people, it's more aggressive, but believe it or not, easier to treat, and the success is brilliant.
Is that because that they're generally fitter anyway, being younger?
I think one of the reasons is in younger people, the cancer multiplies much, much quicker, so they can attack it more aggressively.
Isn't that interesting, right?
In older people, the cancer multiplies more slowly, but carries on multiplying. So once they've killed most of the cancer cells off with chemotherapy, it very slowly starts to multiply again.
How much longer have you got with the treatment, Linda?
I've got till November.
Okay. Well, listen, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll speak to you in November and see how things are going.
That's very kind of you.
Superb, Linda. I wish you all the best of luck. Linda Edmonds there from Aylesbury, who suffers from lymphoma. For more information, go to www.lymphomas.org.uk. Lymphomas.org.uk. And if you follow us on Twitter, at BBC3CR, I'm sure we'll tweet that website address as well. Linda Edmonds talking about Lymphatic Cancer Awareness Week. Now, I'm asking about how you get your kids to sleep because my 8-month-old is not doing it. We are trying the controlled crying. It's heartbreaking. I think it's harder for mums than dads. I think that the females, women, mums, there's a slightly different connection. I won't say it's necessarily stronger than the dad's connection with the baby. It's different. So I can sort of tolerate the crying. It's upsetting, but I can kind of tolerate it. My wife is struggling. We've got Yasin from Bedford. Good morning, Yasin.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Any tips? Have you got kids?
Yeah. I got one 18 years old boy and 4 years old girl.
Okay.
So when we had my 4 years old girl, first couple of months, of course, it's stressful.
Yeah.
Because you don't know whether they're getting hot or whether they're getting too cold. While they're sleeping, you can't get the right temperatures and things. So I was wondering what's going on with the sleeping with my daughter. But after a month, I say, month of old, my wife and me, we decided to try giving them baths every night.
Yeah.
It's quite tiring thing to do every night. Come from work and give them bath and put them sleep.
Yeah.
But it really did work.
So hang on, so the bath, because we give our boys baths every night. You gave the kids a bath, and that would relax them enough that they'd fall asleep, and they would stay asleep all night.
Yeah.
Wow.
One thing, couple of tricks, sleep as well.
Yeah.
We try to keep our daughter awake during the day. That's very important. If you don't keep, if you let them to sleep, if you be lazy basically.
Yeah.
Let them sleep like 3 hours in a day. Of course, they're not going to sleep at night.
No daytime naps. What's the other tip, Yasin?
Just give them. I will give them, and of course they have to sleep because they are kids. They're young. They're 8 months old. They're babies.
Yeah.
They had to sleep. But we give them we let them sleep an hour.
Okay, so keep Yasin, I've got to move on because we're running out of time. Thank you for that. So keep the daytime naps to a minimum. Thank you very much. 08459 455 555.
Across beds, hearts
There we
and
go.
bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Catherine. I was just explaining to my next guest. I said, look, this is only day 3, so if I make any mistakes, I do apologise. And then we're having a little chitty-chat about how he used to work in radio. Then I made a huge mistake, you see, so there we go. Don't worry, I don't think they noticed. Coming up in this hour of the show, half hour of the show, we've got plenty of stuff, including this, which I'm fascinated by. Virgin boss Richard Branson and Tim O'Toole, the chief executive of First Group, will face MPs today over the West Coast mainline franchise, which runs through Hearts and Bucks. Last month, the government decided to take the contract away from Virgin and give it to First. Virgin are now trying to get that decision overturned. Well, Sim Harris is the Bedfordshire-based managing editor of Rail News. Good morning, Sim.
Good morning.
And thank you for not laughing at my terrible studio etiquette.
No, it's live radio. It's expected. Could I just say something very quickly?
Please do.
No, the government did not decide to take the contract away from Virgin. It's one of those urban myths.
Yes.
The contract has come to an end, as contracts do. What they're not getting is another one, but nothing's been taken away.
No, okay, it's funny you mention that. Well done for correcting me. You're absolutely right. I'm normally quite an admirer of Richard Branson. I think he's achieved some fantastic things, and he's a capitalist, and he supports the capitalist system, until it doesn't work in his favour. And then he seems to be having a little hissy fit. It's a system, it's a fair system. People put in bids. His didn't get accepted. That's fair. Isn't it? Or am I missing something, Sim? Is there a big thing that I've missed here?
Well, I am Mr. Neutral on this, and I certainly have no brief for Richard Branson, neither am I against him. But from that point of view, his argument is it's not fair. His argument is, as I understand it, we'll hear more later today. We will certainly hear more if this gets to the High Court, as he hopes it will. What he's saying is, no, it's not fair. It's the evaluation of the future performance of the franchise is not realistic, and therefore he believes, and Virgin believe, that First Group have bid too much.
So basically, for an idiot like me, he's saying that First Group said, we can make £1 billion a year, and there's no way they can make that.
That is very broadly the contention, yes. First Group, of course, must be said, are saying quite the reverse. They're saying, no, our predictions of growth are quite realistic. We've looked at better ways of selling seats, about making sure that trains are better occupied. We firmly believe we've put in a bid accordingly. So what has happened here is that the number 2 runner-up, which is Virgin, having not won, is now questioning the process. Now, there's another argument which makes it even more complicated, I'm afraid. Virgin say they've been raising this matter with the DFT for 2 or 3 years, that they've been questioning the way the DFT does this job of evaluating franchises.
Right.
The DFT have said, no, it was only sort of when they realised they probably weren't going to win that Virgin started saying something. Now, that's their word against Virgin's word against them. We cannot know who's right. But there are all sorts of subsidiary rows going on here. Who said what when? Who made what point? And now it's all come to the boil. And there are some serious matters here. We know that the High Court is now involved. Virgin lodged papers, as the lawyers say, the day before First Group were due to have their contract signed off. Put that process on hold.
That freezes that situation, doesn't it?
Well, for a few days the government maintained it wouldn't, and then they said, yes, it does.
Okay.
But that's government for you. What happens now? We wait for a date for the High Court preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to get an instant judgment. It's a complicated matter. I can imagine the judge or judges saying we now reserve our judgment and publishing it a few weeks later. How can First Group take over on the 9th of December? You may have been reading that the West Coast Main Line, as you say, runs through 3 counties' territory, up through Leighton Buzzard and Hemel Hempstead, Milton Keynes, all that route. That could well now be renationalised for a short time. Yes, it could.
Could it really? Wow.
Oh, yes. There's a DFT-owned company called Directly Operated Railways.
Yep.
And if you go the other side of 3 counties' land to Hitchin or Stevenage, the East Coast Main Line that goes through there is indeed run by DOR, because its franchise holder, the National Express, did pull out a couple of years back. Now, that was a walking-away job. So, at the moment, we do have a nationalised main line in Britain. It may be we're going to get another one from the 9th of December, unless it is resolved very quickly. I don't see how that's to be avoided.
There will be some people cheering that there's a nationalised rail, possibly coming back for a limited period. Any idea, any clue as to which way this could go? As you say, it is so complicated, and it is his word against hers, and you said this, well, no, I didn't, I said this. Have we got any indication of what might happen?
Well, if it goes to, I think this week's evidence sessions before the Transport Committee that you've been reporting. It's Branson and O'Toole today, Virgin and First Group. Wednesday is the new Transport Secretary and his permanent secretary at the DFT. All very interesting, and we may hear a bit more. But in the end, the Transport Committee cannot actually do anything.
Right.
It can make recommendations, but it's a group of MPs. It can't give orders to a government department at the end of the day. However, as I wrote in an editorial in Rail News the other week, referring to the previous Transport Secretary, there is no immunity for Justin Greening in number 1 court. The High Court can say, you will do this again. And that, I think, is what Virgin are pressing for. They're pressing for the whole contest to be rerun. If that happens, it runs well into next year. And then we have a real problem on our hands, because 4 other franchises are due to be let next year. And they include the First Capital Connect franchise, as it is at the moment, which is known as Thameslink, and at the end of the year, East Coast, which ought to be returning to the private sector. Frankly, with this West Coast debacle, the wheels are starting to come off. And over the next few weeks, I think we'll learn a bit more.
I would imagine this is costing a few quid, isn't it?
Oh, yes. To prepare to turn out your pockets, taxpayers one and all. If this, and this is an if the judicial review happens, and if it says the process is flawed, and it tells the DFT, go and do it again, quite apart from all the delays, the bidders this time round, I would imagine, would all want their bidding costs back.
How much is the bidding cost?
Ooh, between the 4 in the region of 50 million.
Hang on, sorry, I'm... You pay £50 million to make a bid?
Well, you don't pay 50, you pay... Virgin have paid 14.
Oh, okay.
We know that.
That's a snip, then.
Yes, but there are 3 other bidders.
Wow.
Including First Group.
Yeah.
And if you were SNCF, the French railway, one of whom has been bidding, and you discovered the process you'd spent arguably 10 million on was flawed and couldn't possibly work, and the courts overturned it, wouldn't you want your money back?
You would want your money back.
So I think that's one thing, but I think it's the least, frankly, of the DFT's problems. It raises all sorts of questions. Should they even be doing this? The franchise competitions keep running late.
Yeah.
They keep having little extensions bolted on to try and catch up. And as for the saga of the new trains on Thameslink, well, the contract was announced last June, not the one we've just had, the one in 2011, yet to be signed off.
So, very quickly, if you can answer quickly, does the whole franchise and the sealed bids and the whole system need overhauling? Is it flawed?
Yes, as I said, I think the wheels are coming off it now.
Yeah.
And one thing it might be worth saying for the assurance of passengers, on the 9th of December, whichever way this one plays, and it's not yet impossible that First Group could take over. I wouldn't want to be thought I'm saying that.
Yep.
I'm saying it's quite likely they won't. On the 9th of December, the trains will run. All that will have happened is that the Virgin logo will have disappeared from the side of the trains. So don't worry, your train service will keep going. Just who's running it, that's the question.
Sim, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. You've explained a very complicated story in a way that even I can understand, and that's always a good sign.
Nice to see you, Ian.
Sim Harris is Bedfordshire-based managing editor of Rail News. No doubt we'll be following that as it trundles on down the tracks. Now, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. In the last hour, we've heard from 3 people across Beds and Herts who have all been affected by suicide. Suicide rates in England have declined over the last 10 years, according to the Department of Health. The figures show that it's middle-aged men who are at greater risk of suicide. Anna from Luton lost her son when he took his own life. Our reporter Serena Farrow spent some time with her.
I lost Joe just over 2 years ago. He was 31. He died by hanging. So the violent end. At Joe's inquest, the coroner actually recorded an open verdict rather than a straightforward suicide verdict. There is still doubt in my mind as to whether he actually intended to follow his actions through to the bitter end. I feel now that he may have been setting up a scenario that would demonstrate just how desperately unhappy he was. And I think there's a possibility that that went tragically too far. That's something we shall never know. There was still a lot of emotion, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration bottled up inside. His relationship with his partner had just ended. I think that was the last straw.
I mean, having had an auntie who committed suicide 20 years ago now, you do. There is guilt. There's always that guilt there.
Dreadfully so. I loved him to bits, and he knew I did, and we did have a very close relationship. We always did, even when he was a youngster. At the end of the day, at that particular moment, I wasn't there, and that will live with me forever. But as well as being Joe's mum, I am actually a Samaritan volunteer. Part of the awfulness of it for me afterwards was that it happens as close to home as that, and you are personally eyeball to eyeball with someone's suicide. The guilt lies in the fact that you think to yourself, I've probably helped to get a lot of people through some very bad patches, and then I couldn't do it for somebody as close to me as my own son. And I still live with that now.
It's double-edged almost, isn't it?
Very much so, yes, very much so.
So you yourself, I suppose, are being helped by the Samaritans now?
The support for me from Samaritans when it happened was wonderful. I had a great deal of care from fellow volunteers who kept in touch pretty well on a daily basis.
It's reporter Serena Farrow there speaking to Anna from Luton about the loss of her own son, and today is World Suicide Prevention Day. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. It's coming up to 7:45. It is 7:45 now. It's Monday the 10th September. These are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. Members of the British Paralympic and Olympic teams will mark the end of a summer of sport with a victory parade in London this afternoon. Cheryl Gillan, the Tory MP for Chesham and Amersham, is vowing to use all her energy to fight HS2 now she's no longer a cabinet member. In sport, Andy Murray will attempt to win his first Grand Slam title tonight as he plays in the US Open final. Murray faces defending champion Novak Djokovic, who won his semi-final against David Ferrer in 4 sets. Weather, we're in for a cloudy day with the chance of a few light showers. Top temperature, 21 degrees. And coming up, after 8, we'll be speaking to Olympic gold medal winner Etienne Stott.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Jonathan Vernon Smith Weekday mornings from 9 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
You gotta love a bit of the javs. You've gotta love the javs. I mean, he's coming in about half an hour or so, whenever he sees fit. No one tells him what to do. He'll be on at 9 o'clock. And it's always a cracking listen. Now, you've been helping me this morning, and I appreciate it. I'm a dad. I've got a 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old, and they have been away for a week, and I picked them up from Gatwick Airport on Friday. Oh, I got the biggest hug in the world from my little 2.5-year-old boy. It was wonderful. Moments like that. But then you get moments like this. Last night, we're now trying to get my baby to sleep, the 8-month-old. And we tried the controlled crying last night. I say it was my wife. And I know she hates it, because when we did it on the eldest, she didn't like it. And I was like, we're doing it, it'll be fine. And we did it, and it was fine. But it doesn't seem to be working with the baby. And he was in a terrible state last night. So I need your help, dear listener. If you've got any help, 08459 455 555 is the phone number. We've got Maggie Fisher on the line, who's a health visitor, and she advises people on baby sleep. Good morning, Maggie.
Hello.
Maggie, what are we doing wrong, please?
Oh, I hate to disappoint you, but it's not going to work overnight, Ian, control checking.
How long does it... I mean, let me, for those who don't know, for those who aren't parents, this is how we've been doing it. You lay the baby down, you come out, you let them cry for 5 minutes, you come back in, you settle them, go out, let them cry for 10 minutes, and keep building up, and supposedly they stop crying and settle themselves. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's several things there. The first thing is, and you've just sort of said that your little one's been away on holiday, and any change in their routine or being ill or unwell or anything can trigger a sleep problem.
Right.
And also it's what they associate with learning to fall asleep. So if they get used to being held or rocked or whatever, then that's their sleep association, and every time they wake up they need that to go back to sleep. So what you're trying to do with the control checking is to teach your baby to self-settle, to go back to sleep on their own without disturbing you. Because we all wake in the night. We cannot prevent babies waking in the night. Everybody does, but it's how they go back to sleep. And parents only know their baby's awake in the night if they cry out and shout for them. So then you know they're awake, but they can't get themselves back off to sleep without your intervention.
Are there any other techniques apart from the control crying? 'Cause it does seem a little bit harsh.
Right. Well, the Harvard Center for the Developing Child in America has done lots of research on this, and they have now said definitively that control crying, if done correctly, is not harmful to a child.
That's good.
And the other thing I would say is control crying will work, but you have to give it at least 4 or 5 nights, and sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. But within 2 weeks, you normally have a baby who is sleeping through.
2 weeks?
Well, 2 weeks maximum is what we say. If after 2 weeks it's not working, I would suggest that you try another tack. And for those who can't cope with control checking, because it is hard to do, but it is quite short, really, because, to be honest, within a week they're normally sleeping through, or the behaviour's getting less. There are much better... Well, not better. There are other gentler methods to use, and you can't use control checking with a baby under 6 months. It's not safe.
It's 6 months. We thought it was 8 months, but 6 months is the age. Okay,
6 months, yeah. So we on the Net Mum Sleep site, I work on the in the sleep support forums. We've actually got a whole sleep support homepage, a sleep clinic, and on that we've got loads and loads of information about every sleep problem you could ever possibly come across, and all the different sleep techniques. So besides control checking, you've got the gradual retreat, which is basically if your baby's got used, or your child's got used to you being with them when they go to sleep, you still stay with them, but you can either sit on the bed next to them or sort of have a hand on their back or whatever. So you're teaching them to go to sleep without being held or rocked by you. So you're with them, and you might need to have a hand on them to start off with. And then once they've got used to that and they're learning to settle with that, then you sit next to them or on the bed or beside the cot while they go to sleep. And you give that 4 or 5 nights till they've got used to that. And then you move your chair a little bit away from the bed. I mean, it takes a while, but you get the idea. So you do that for 3 or 4 nights till they've got used to that, until you're a bit further away and a bit further away, till you can be in the doorway, and then you can be outside, out of sight, just popping your head back every so often. Now, that does take longer, sort of possibly 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how well they tolerate it, because if they start crying at any stage, you go back to the stage before, so that you do it at the child's pace. So that's the gradual retreat. And then you've got the pick up, put down, which you can safely use with the baby from 3 months onwards. And that's when the baby cries, you go in, you pick them up, and as soon as they stop crying, you put them down. And again, you're not making a fuss of them, you're not talking to them, you're not kissing them, you're not having eye contact like you do with control checking. You're just going in like a robot, and you're just offering low-grade comfort, really, or attention. And then as soon as they stop crying, you put them down and walk out. And you do that as often as it takes. Now, you do need a strong back for that.
Oh, no.
It does hurt. And then there's the kissing game, which is a version of gradual retreat, really, I suppose, really, where you keep kissing the child and they move away, kissing the child, move away. And that can take a long time. But again, if it's done properly,
it'll work.
It does work. And we've got all of these are explained in a step-by-step guide on the NetMums website.
Maggie, listen, thank you so much. Maggie Fisher there, who's a health visitor, helping out with my child's sleep. And, of course, you can go to that website and have a little look at that as well. And if you're a parent, you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. You'll know exactly where I'm coming from. Thank you very much, Maggie. The HS2 train line is a terrible idea. That's according to former Welsh Secretary and MP for Cheshire and Amersham, Cheryl Gillan, who lost her cabinet job in the reshuffle last week. She says that now she's free to speak out against the high-speed 2 rail line, which is planned to pass through her constituency. She's on the line now. Good morning, Cheryl.
Oh, good morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm tired, but I'm fine, thank you.
I was thinking that maybe the solution for your children was to pay some of the political speeches I've had to listen to over the years. That would send your children straight to sleep.
That might be a way. Now, listen, Cheryl, you're coming out and saying this is a terrible idea. Is this just because you've lost your job in the cabinet and it smacks a little of sour grapes?
No, well, I think that is absolutely quite the reverse. When this was first announced by the last Labour government, I was straight in there to the Department for Transport to tell them what a terrible idea it was. And indeed, the advantage of being in Cabinet for the past 2.5 years has meant that I've had direct access to both Secretaries of State for Transport. And I think it's no great secret my views of this project right from the beginning, and they continue today. The real difference is that instead of doing it behind the scenes and directly, I can now come out of the woodwork, and I think that that's very comforting to a lot of my constituents who perhaps have not always been able to see visibly what I've been doing against this project from the start.
Cheryl, it's great you have come out. It's fantastic for those who think it is a bad idea. But there will be some people, possibly your constituents, saying, well, hang on a minute, why didn't you come out when you were in a power of greater authority?
Well, I did come out, but there's a thing called Cabinet Collective Responsibility. But the key thing is that this project, this is not about me, this is about this project, and this is about what this project will do and the effect it will have. And quite frankly, I think it's a project which is not even conservative, as I've said before. Conservatives believe in getting good value for money. This project is not good value for money. And Conservatives believe in protecting the environment. And this certainly will not protect the environment, although I've had some good wins in the past, particularly with some of the extra tunnelling. However, the basic problem is that we have a real economic crisis on our hands still. And there is going to be no payback from this scheme, not for decades to come. And I think this money can be spent by the government better on other alternatives. So I will do my best to join all those that have been fighting publicly, because even though they've been shouting loudly and out in public, they've not managed to stop the scheme. But I will lend my weight to them. And
you mentioned that,
stop the scheme, Ian, we've got to get the best possible deal, which has always been the fallback position, which I felt was sensible to adopt.
You mentioned the government being an environmentally friendly group. Haven't they just announced that it's going to be easier to build on greenbelt land?
Well, that's the other thing. I've told the Prime Minister that I have always believed in protecting our environment. We have an AONB in the Chilterns. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the country. It's a fragile landscape. And I intend to speak up on the environment for my constituency and all attacks on it from whatever quarters they come.
I'm sorry to dwell on this, Rob, but this does fascinate me slightly. It does seem disappointing that in modern politics there are very few people that will speak out against the party line. And does it not strike you as being a bit hypocritical to disagree with something but not come out in public and say, I disagree with this?
Well, I think that you've got to understand the way government works. And also, don't make any mistake, I'm a loyal Conservative. I'm not against my party, quite the reverse. I wish this government well. I will always be a loyal Conservative and will continue to be so. But the pressures of government do mean that if you have cabinet collective responsibility, quite rightly, those people that are in ministerial office do not come out openly against government policy. However...
And is that right? Do you think that's the case?
Yes, and behind the corridors, however, though I can assure you that there has never been any mistake. And to be truthful in the press, every time HS2 and my name has been associated, it has been quite clear that I am not approving of the project. But I think you do have to observe those rules of government. I think that applies to all governments of whatever political complexion.
Cheryl, listen, thank you very much for coming on. Cheryl Gillen, who is the MP for Chesham and Amersham, expressing her views on HS2, the proposed rail link. I just do think it's interesting that this towing the party line is a common thread. And does that concern you? That there are people in power who may disagree with things that are being done by the party, but they go along with them because of this collective consciousness. Surely that's the only way policies and ideals can be changed from within, isn't it? If someone high-ranking within the party says, hang on a second, I don't agree with this, whatever it may be, and I'm going to come out and challenge this. It's debate, isn't it? That's what it's all about. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. Maybe I'm using my sixth form politics argument, and who knows? 08459 455 555. You can text 81333, starting your text 3CR. Got some interesting texts on babies crying. Ricky in Luton, really? I'll read it out in a second. His parents employed some very odd techniques. All of that and more after the latest news with Catherine Boyle. This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, here until 9 o'clock. Still plenty in the last hour, including London 2012 may be over, but there's going to be an amazing parade through London today. We've got a gold medal winner coming on the show. Superb. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day. We'll be speaking about that. And also, I've got all of your texts about how to get my baby to sleep. Including, I miscredited, it wasn't Ricky in Luton, it was Andrew in Royston who's got some odd techniques. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, it's like it's doing, like an old man. I am an old man. The greatest Paralympic Games ever. Those are the words of Sir Philip Craven, the International Paralympic Committee President. London 2012 came to an end last night with a spectacular closing ceremony for the Paralympics. But it's not completely over. Today, 700 athletes will take part in a parade to celebrate their success at London 2012, including Three Counties athletes like Greg Rutherford, Victoria Pendleton, Laura Trott and Etienne Stott. He won gold at the Lee Valley Whitewater Centre, and he's on the line now. Good morning, Etienne.
Good morning.
What does today mean to you?
Sorry, say that again.
Have you been celebrating already?
Oh, no. I was just slightly distracted. A little police dog was searching one of the floats, so I wanted a little photo of him for my girlfriend.
Does your girlfriend like police dogs, then?
Oh, just those nice little dogs. They're looking around. Oh, they're just nice little beasts, aren't they?
What does today mean to you, Etienne?
Oh, I tell you what, I'm getting really excited. I think it's going to be one of the highlights of the Olympics, I think, for me. I think it's going to be just immense going on these floats with all the athletes. I'm hoping there's going to be a big crowd, and it doesn't rain. I think it could be just one of those real special moments of the whole business.
Hey, listen, man, there's going to be a huge crowd. People are gathering already. It's going to be a massive, massive day. Has it sunk in yet? What you've achieved and what
really,
you've been part of?
No, it hasn't, no. I mean, it's kind of weird. I'm getting used to being regarded as the Olympic champion, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I don't sort of feel it in myself in many ways, and it's really nice, but it is still quite strange. I can't really explain it very well.
Now, as an outsider, we kind of think of the Olympics as a whole entity, and that you're all hanging out with, like, Chris Hoy and Seb Coe and stuff like that. Have you spent much time with the rest of Team GB yet?
Here and there. I mean, for example, on Sunday we were with Andrew Triggs-Hodge, the rowing gold medalist, doing the Ecovair Blue Mile in Plymouth. doing a sort of a WWF charity thing. So we've gone around with him. We've seen a bit of Greg Rutherford and a few other people here and there. But no, frankly, we're kind of mostly doing our own thing. But this is the first time everyone will be together since the Olympics.
And it's exciting as well because also the Paralympians are going to be joining you today. And I think that's been the huge surprise, that's been such an amazing success. And I went to that and had a fantastic day. What have you made? Have you caught much of the Paralympics?
Oh, yeah, I have. I watched quite a bit of it in the evening. Not so much the last couple of days, but I've watched, I really enjoyed the wheelchair basketball, actually. That was really cool. And I watched the swimming one night in the aquatic centre.
We watched the wheelchair basketball. It's so vicious. They just keep ramming into each other.
It's really technical. I really enjoyed, the skills and the different abilities of the different players. It was really, really good.
How has your life changed, Etienne, since winning gold?
It's got incredibly busy. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we're not training right now. It'd be impossible to sustain a training effort and do all the stuff that we've been doing. Email and everything, sorting everything out. It's been very, very exciting and very busy. But it's been very, very cool as well, very, very cool.
Of course it's been cool. Hey, listen, man, if you achieve nothing else in your life, which you will, if you don't, you say, I won a gold medal, what have you done?
Oh, well, I hope to do other good things, but, a gold medal at your home Olympics is very, very special. It's just amazing.
There's going to be plenty of good things. Thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy your day, mate. It's wonderful.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Ian.
That's Etienne Stott there, who won gold at the Lee Valley Whitewater Centre. What a nice bloke. He's taking pictures of police dogs for his girlfriend. Because she likes them. That's fantastic. Also, Greg Rutherford is going to be there today. He won gold in the long jump. And we've got his dad, Andy, on the line. Hello, Andy.
Good morning.
How are you feeling this morning? You all right?
Oh, I'm not too bad, thanks. Yeah, it's been back to work for me for a couple of weeks, so it's normality for me.
Oh, yeah, of course. I suppose so. For the dads, it's, they can have their moment of glory. But are you bunking off today to go to the parade?
Unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. My workload, because of the Olympics, my workload is built up so much. But my wife and daughter are both going up, and they're going to enjoy it.
Oh, that's something. Oh, you must be gutted, mate.
I am gutted, yeah. It's just that I took a bit of extra time over the Olympics, so it meant I've had to catch up now. So it's been a bit more awkward.
Okay, well, this is the thing. I wasn't going to ask this, but when you went back to work after your boy had won a gold medal, what did everyone say?
I don't think anyone can really believe it. I mean, I'm actually a self-employed builder, and I have sort of my own customers. Right. And I was going to houses, and they were looking at me in a different light. It's sort of like this guy that comes to build our walls. It shouldn't be him that has it happen, But no, it was a very positive response all round, really. I mean, everyone was over the moon for us.
I'm hoping, and I know this goes against local policy, but I'm hoping you've put the Olympic rings on the side of your van and said, "I'm the father of a gold medal winning athlete." That'll bump up the price a bit, won't it?
Yeah, I haven't actually got around to that yet, but I think it's going to be a good idea, yeah. There's a lot to live up to, though. My quality of work has got to really live up to a gold medal.
Are you gold medal, Andy, or are you silver or bronze? Whereabouts are you?
Well, I think I'm gold, but I'll let everybody else make that decision for you.
But we were speaking to Laura Stott's dad earlier on, and I'm a dad. I've got two little boys. They're tiny at the moment, but just the feeling of pride I get when they do anything, but if they use the toilet properly is amazing. Yeah. Seeing your boy win a gold medal, can you describe how that felt?
It was absolutely incredible. I can't really. I mean, I suppose the nearest thing to it is maybe watching your wife give birth and, you see your child come into the world. It's sort of that ecstatic feeling of sort of a major achievement. And in fact, I hadn't really watched Greg back until this last weekend. I watched him yesterday, and it really brought a massive lump to my throat watching him. The emotion is still all there.
Did you, when he said to you, Dad, I'm going to become a long jumper, that's what I want to do, did you say, come on, get some sense in your son, come and join the business? Well, how did you react?
To be quite honest with you, I would have always loved to be a sportsman myself, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out for me. So when Greg sort of went down the route of sport, then obviously I was fully behind him right from the start. So I haven't exactly pushed him, but I've encouraged him as much as I can. And, when you see a result like this, it makes it also worthwhile, because there's plenty of people that try very hard and never actually get there for whatever reason. So it really is gratifying from our point of view to see him succeed.
Now, putting the fact you're his dad to one side, Andy, did you genuinely think he had the chance of winning a gold medal?
Yes. I will say yes, simply because I have seen the amount of work and the progress that he has made, and particularly he's tried everything he can in order to improve. And the new coach that UK Athletics brought in really did, bring him on leaps and bounds, literally.
Literally, yes. Well
was prepared to change technique and work with him and just fine tweak things, because at that level, it's only a little difference can make, the difference between winning and losing. And that's what they've done for Greg. And I really appreciate that as well. It's been great.
And finally, is Greg any good at plastering? Can he build a wall just in case it all goes pear-shaped? Is there a space for him in the business?
He's not brilliant. He has done a little bit of plastering. But he's in his early stages, I would say, yeah. Not even quite bronze yet.
Well, that's honestly. Andy, listen, congratulations. You must be over the moon. It's a shame you can't go, but love to the wife and the daughter, and I'm sure they'll have an amazing day. How cool is that? Isn't that exciting? That's Andy Rutherford, who's Greg Rutherford's dad, who won a gold in the long jump. Not a very good plasterer, apparently. Greg, he could do with a little bit more practice, a little bit more work. But you going to the parade today? You going to go and have a little look? That's terrible that he can't get any time off work. Oh dear. Still, it's his boy. He'll be proud. Now, you've been texting in your solutions or tips for getting babies to sleep. Now, the one I mentioned, Andrew in Royston. OK, the first thing, when I was a baby, my mum used to drive me in the car to send me off to sleep. We did that with the first one. We did that when we were really, really desperate. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I have driven my eldest around in the car, and it would send him to sleep. But then as the expert said earlier on, you're then getting him into the habit that he can only fall asleep if he's in the car. And here's one. This is Andrew carries on. When I was teething, they used to put me in the sink and paddle in the water, or put my hands in the water, and then I stopped crying. It's not particularly practical, Andrew. It's not going to work all the time. Here's a question. Is it true that if someone's asleep and then you put their hand in a bucket of water, they wet themselves? Is that true? Or is that just from American comedies from the 80s? Is that a fact? We'll conduct some experiments. As well as finding Dion from Dion and the Belmonts, we're going to conduct experiments into putting sleeping people's hands into buckets of water. Ray suggests I read The Baby Whisperer. If you've just tuned in and wonder what we're talking about, I've got an 8-month-old baby. And sleep. Yeah, struggling to get him to sleep, and to sleep through the night. And my wife, bless her heart, did the controlled crying last night. Could take up to 2 weeks for that to work, and just wondering if there are any other tips or techniques. 08459 455 555. Ricky in Luton says, to get your baby to sleep at night, he needs to be knackered. Let him play until late afternoon, cutting out the 2 till 4 sleep. You'll have a blissful night. It works with the older boy. We took him to a little fete yesterday in North London, and he was flinging himself around on the bouncy castle. He was riding he was having the time of his life. Little boogie to the bands. Didn't have a daytime nap, and he slept well last night. He was asleep by 6:30. I know. We had a few tears and tantrums before bed, but once he got into bed, he was asleep by 6:30. So that's an idea. And Vic also says, we used to drive our babies around the block in the middle of the night in the car. Always worked. It does send them to sleep, Vic, but, I can't really be getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning to drive the kids around. I want them to sleep like normal people. Is that too much to ask? It's 8:15. These are your headlines on Monday, the 10th of September on BBC Three Counties Radio. Members of the British Paralympic and Olympic teams will mark the end of a summer of sport with a victory parade in London this afternoon. Chesham and Amersham MP Cheryl Gillam is vowing to redouble her efforts to fight HS2 now she's no longer a cabinet minister. In sport, Andy Murray will attempt to win his first Grand Slam title tonight as he plays in the US Open final. Murray faces defending champion Novak Djokovic, who won his semi-final against David Ferrer in 4 sets. Weather coming up in a minute with Steve Weston, and also on the show today. Today is World Suicide Prevention Day, which aims at raising awareness of those most at risk. After 8:30, we'll be speaking to a mother in St Albans who lost her son 3 years ago when he took his own life.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
I've got Juvs in the studio. It just saves time. It's less...
I knew that would stick.
JVS. Just 3 syllables.
It's true.
Juvs, how are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?
Lovely.
Your hair's getting long, isn't it?
It is long today, isn't it? What happened?
Did you ever watch Glee?
I didn't. Surprisingly, no, I missed Glee.
Your hair's looking a little bit like Mr. Shoe. It's a reference lost on you.
I'm taking it that's a good thing.
Yes.
I'm taking it's a good thing.
It's a lovely thing.
You asked what I did at the weekend, and without going into too much detail, my weekend was wonderful with the kids. And on Friday night, I had the most surreal experience. It was a job. I walked into a room. There in the room was Rusty Lee and Dave Benson Phillips, the children's entertainer.
I saw you tweeting about this.
And they were teaching me to sing a song from Bugsy Malone. Now, that kind of stuff doesn't happen every day.
No, it doesn't. Was that funny? You know Rusty Lee, she once, she did a show here.
Did she? I didn't know that. We're related, distantly.
Are you really?
Not in the slightest, no.
Oh.
No. Would be good, though. She's bonkers, but wonderful.
Yes, the listeners to Three Counties Radio will never forget the week that Rusty stood in.
The week. I can see you're glancing at your script. That means you want to move on.
No,
I apologise, Jibs. We were chatting too much. I can take a hint. The eyes have it. Let's see what you've got on your show.
No, I was genuinely enjoying our chat.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. I like to think we're friends, but it turns out...
No, we are. We are. I was just trying to remember the question I'm asking on the phone in.
Let's listen and see if it's worthwhile.
Let's see it. We've worked very long and hard on this one this morning. Have the Paralympics made you look at disability differently? Do you like that?
I do like that. That's an excellent question. An excellent question, yes.
After the closing ceremony of the Paralympics last night, later today there's a victory parade for British Olympians and Paralympians through the streets of London. Thousands of people are expected to line the streets. Organisers had always hoped that these games would change the way some people feel about disability, and there's no doubt the competition has been amazing.
No doubt about that at all.
Well, from 9 this morning, I'm asking, have the Paralympics made you look at disability differently? I'd love to hear from you. If you are disabled yourself, has it made you look at your own disability differently? Has it made you look at the way other people look at you, if that makes sense? And if you are, perhaps you have someone in your family who's disabled, or you work with someone who's disabled, has it made you look at what they may be capable of differently? I wonder as well whether, for some disabled people, it's actually been quite frustrating. Because, yes, OK, if you are disabled but you are able to do something despite your disability, then that's incredible. But for some people, their disability is something that they can't. You know, it may be something that gets worse every single day, and they can't just jump in a swimming pool and swim to the other side. It's not that simple. And perhaps they may feel that society is now looking at them as if they are in some way a failure.
Saying, why aren't you doing that?
Why aren't you climbing a mountain?
But then the same applies to able-bodied people. I'm never quite sure what the right term is to use, is that people are probably looking at you and I, Jibs, and saying, well, why aren't you running a marathon? Why aren't you swimming, doing a triathlon? Why aren't you doing a triathlon, by the way?
Because I can't be bothered.
Exactly.
So on the big phone in this morning, have the Paralympics made you look at disability differently? I'd love to hear your views, your thoughts and your experiences, please.
Should be a good listener. Who do I look like from Mr. Buggles?
Oh, no. He's very handsome.
From Glee?
Mr. Shoe.
I'm going to Google him during a little break, and we'll find out. Mr. Shoe.
You're going to come upstairs and beat me.
I may well do that, yes. I'll give you a good wrench. Thank you very much. Right, it's time to get the latest weather now. Oh, man. Good morning. This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio. There we go. Every time we get a guest in, I say, listen, it's my third day. I might do some technical mistakes, and of course I do. Now, a campaign has been launched today by the Lymphoma Association to mark the start of Lymphatic Cancer Awareness Week. This little-known but common form of cancer is more likely to strike young people than any other form of the disease. Trevor Lynch from Buckinghamshire suffers... Well, you say suffers from lymphoma. You're in remission now, aren't you?
I am in remission.
So do we still say suffers? What's the terminology?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the version that I have, it's a mouthful. It's follicular, low-grade, non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Right. It goes into remission, but how long it stays in remission, they can't tell you.
Okay.
I've heard of people who have been in remission for 20 years.
Wow.
Other people, 20 weeks, 20 months. It varies.
Right.
So I'm enjoying it as I can. I'm enjoying the remission. And, feeling better than I have done in a long, long time, which is great news.
We'll speak more about the remission in a minute. Okay. How did you first discover that you had this? What were your first symptoms?
Like you mentioned earlier, or one of your callers, I think I ignored symptoms. I'm a typical guy. I just don't go to the doctor. But last October or so, I had a rash come around my face, around my nose and forehead, and it started to spread up into my scalp. And roughly at the same time, I'd noticed that I had some lumps on my neck that were becoming more prominent. So I went to the doctor in November, finally got around to going, and I hadn't put the two items together, and neither had he. So he gave me cream for my rash on my face. And as I was walking out, I'd almost forgotten. I turned around and said, oh, by the way, should I worry about these lumps? And he goes, yes.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, yes, of course.
So X-rays, biopsies. 2 months later, by January, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin.
Isn't it interesting that you mentioned the rash on your nose, but you almost didn't mention the lumps, which would most people go, well, that's surely the more serious.
Yeah, so it's just, I look back now and I think, what was I doing? In fact, I remember that probably 2 years previously, lumps had come up just below my ears.
Right.
Glands that come up when you get a virus or whatever. And I ignored it, did nothing about it, because I was feeling generally well. I wasn't feeling tired or anything, so I ignored it. And actually, they never went away, and I ignored them. And then more came up.
This type of cancer, this lymphoma cancer, what is it exactly? For those who have got no idea, what does it mean?
It means that there's lymphocytes, certain white blood cells that don't die when they should, and therefore they're not cleared out and your body's producing more, and over time they start to clog up your lymphatic system. So that's the version that I have, and that's why the lumps form.
Right.
They just clog up inside in your lymph nodes. And by the time I was diagnosed, it had progressed to stage 4, which is the furthest stage.
Right.
So it was in all my lymph nodes, both sides of my diaphragm. It was in my spleen, my liver, my bone marrow, and in my skin. That was the rash that was eventually coming through. So it was quite well progressed.
So you could have died?
I don't think so.
Right.
It's very slow growing. If I'd left it forever, it probably would have compromised my immune system, and I could have died of pneumonia or whatever.
Right.
But it responds very, very well to treatment. And had I been diagnosed when I first originally spotted the lumps, I might have been put on a watch and wait routine. Wait for it to progress so bad that your quality of life is starting to get affected, then you'd go on chemotherapy. And I'm not sure what that would have been like. So I was diagnosed, they said, crikey, you're at stage 4, we better get you on chemo.
When they say that to you, how do you react?
Yeah, it was very surreal. Almost out of the body, like. I remember sitting there. I went to the doctor that morning. She was going to go through the results of a CT scan that I had. And my wife was there. Should I go with you or not? But I just didn't think I was sick. I felt so good that morning. I'd just been out for a run. And I said, no, it's going to be okay. I'll go. And then she got a call 2 hours later saying, maybe you better come over after all. So it was surreal, but I just wanted to get down to, okay, I've got this now. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Straight away.
And that was your attitude immediately, was it? Right, okay, yeah, now where do I go?
Yes, yeah. And so straight away we agreed the following Thursday I would start going on my chemo routine. So every 3 weeks on a Thursday I would go in for chemotherapy. I'd also agreed earlier on that I was going to continue working.
Right.
And I was going to play it by ear, but I was just going to continue working unless I was really, really bad. And I was going to continue running. So I went in for chemo on a Thursday. By Sunday I went for a light jog. And I was surprised that after that I felt much better than I had thanks to any of the drugs that the doctors gave me, yeah. The nausea lifted for some time, for the rest of that.
And you weren't exhausted after the chemo? No. You had the energy to...
On the day itself, you're tired. The rest of that weekend, you're kind of ginger. You're taking it easy. I didn't go for a killer run. It was just, get the heart beating, go out for 3 or 4 miles. It was really good. And that was the motto of the rest of my chemo. Keep running, keep working, and trying to stay as positive as I could throughout.
How long did the treatment last for?
It was 6, so every 3 weeks for 6 months.
For 6 months?
Yeah.
And you're clear now? You're in remission?
I'm in remission. The last CT scan I had a couple of months ago, they couldn't find anything at all.
Fantastic.
So I was delighted.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
that must have been a...
It's a relief. It's great. And it's a funny thing to say, but the whole experience has given me a new lease on life. I feel much more energetic now than I have, and more fit than I've been in a long, long time. Ran a half marathon last weekend. My whole work-life balance is a lot better because I think you have this kind of a scare. It makes you think about what you do with your life.
Isn't that interesting? I've heard people say that before who've been seriously ill and come out the other side, and they just said, well, I've got everything in perspective. I know how much time I want to work. I know how much time I want to spend with my family, how much time I want to, enjoy my life.
Absolutely.
And it switches quite dramatically.
So even the little things such as when you get home in the evening, do you flop on the couch and watch telly and shush your kids because you can't hear the television? Or do you actually make use of whatever nice weather we've had and get out into the garden or take my daughter for a coffee or whatever? So it just makes you think in terms like that.
Are there common things that people should be looking for at home?
Yeah, in terms of if you have lymphoma or not. Yeah, so the things that I ignored, the painless lumps. So if you see some lumps on your neck or under your armpit or whatever, it's probably worth getting them checked out. I felt bloated for quite some time. That was probably a symptom I had for a year that I ignored. I put it down to my diet. It was all part of it. Towards the end, I started to wake up at night sweating.
Yes, we heard that earlier about the night sweats.
Yeah, and unexplained fevers. I remember at work getting a fan put in because I was feeling quite hot at work and I'd have hot flushes. I've never had them since I've had the treatment. Weight loss, that's one of the good parts, I think, of what I caught. I'm a stone lighter than I was this time last year, which helps with all the running that I do as well. Tiredness. Now, I'm like you. At the time when I was diagnosed, I had what I do. My son, who's 2 now. But around about the time this started to kick in, he was 8 months old. I was very busy.
So you're always tired anyway. You've got a job, you've got a baby. You're always tired.
Yeah, so I just didn't think anything. I just said, oh, it's down to my life. But looking back at it now, I do think I was tired as a result of the lymphoma. And then, the rash on my face, itching, cough, breathlessness, anything like that. Yeah. It's probably worth just asking your doctor. Out. Yeah.
Trevor, listen, congratulations on being in remission. And you go for a checkup every 2 months.
Every 2 months, yeah.
Well, my thoughts are with you. I'm sure it'll be fine. And well done. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Superb. There we go. That's Trevor Lynch, who's from Buckinghamshire and had suffered. He's in remission from lymphoma. Fascinating.
This is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
It's been a busy morning and plenty more to come in the last half hour, including controlled crying, talking more about the Paralympics and the Olympics and that parade today. But first of all, today is World Suicide Prevention Day, as we've been mentioning, and it's to raise awareness of those most at risk and the impact the tragedy can leave on those left behind. All this morning we've been listening to how people across Beds, Herts and Bucks have been affected by suicide. Well, our next guest is Karen. She's a mother in St Albans whose son took his own life 3 years ago. She's on the line now. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Ian.
I feel uncomfortable asking you about these questions, and if I ask anything that is inappropriate, please tell me, won't you? And I will back away. I don't want to cause any upset. But could you tell us what happened with your son?
Yes, well, it's quite a long story, really, but to keep it brief, Jason was 22 years old. He was perfectly healthy, normal young man, full of life, had lots of, interests, worked hard, had no real problems at all. He had a good sense of humour, really enjoyed life, and very suddenly he seemed to get quite distressed and upset, came to me where I lived in my flat, and he used to come and stay with me a couple of days a week anyway. Seemed very distressed, didn't really want to talk about it, wanted a fresh start, just seemed to be really upset. Couldn't really get to the bottom of it, but he seemed fine. He stayed with me for 3 or 4 days, and it was the May bank holiday in 2009. And he just got up one morning, and then I was in the middle of talking to him, and he collapsed. And basically called the ambulance, and there's been a whole series of events that happened, but basically he had a psychotic attack. We can't really be sure what brought it on, but he basically went into sort of a strange mode. He didn't recognise me, and he ran off from the hospital. They did lots of tests, and during the tests he ran off. The police were called. They found him and brought him back. He was there for the rest of the day having various tests done. And at about 7:30 in the evening, they said they were going to keep him in under observation. They said, go home, Karen, have a rest, we'll look after him and come back in the morning. Within about half hour, 3/4 of an hour of me leaving, I had a phone call saying that he'd decided to go home. He wanted to come home and he'd left. What then ensued was us rushing back to the hospital to try and find him, because obviously it was on a Saturday night. He was walking home, had no money, just his T-shirt and jeans, and we never found him. And he was missing for 4 days. And they then found him in the hospital. He'd left the ward, but come back in and gone up to the 3rd floor, and he'd taken his own life. Now, this is obviously a huge shock, but, it's taken me 3 years to sort of get to the bottom of it, and it's been like piecing a puzzle together as to why a lovely, healthy young man would suddenly commit suicide.
And have you got any answers, Karen? Have you come any closer to working out why he would have done that?
Yes, I mean, there was some family issues that I didn't know about with his father, which inevitably was the reason, in my opinion, and he kept it to himself, and he was very distressed by it, and I think it just got too much for him, and he didn't know which way to turn, and it just hit him very hard, very quickly. And basically, I just think whether he went into another psychotic attack, whether he went into, and he wasn't himself, because he was no way at all depressed or suicidal at all. It was clearly stresses and strain had got to him.
Karen, I just have to say, just sorry to interrupt, I just have to say for legal reasons that we haven't got Jason's dad on the line, and he may paint a different picture, and these are all opinions. I don't want to point the finger at anyone.
No, not
or anything
at all,
like that.
But there were,
I'm going to ask you a question that you may not be able to answer. How did you feel when you found out that he'd taken his own life?
Well, just utterly shocked. It was really, I think, even now, I'm still probably in shock, because for the past 3.5 years, I've been sort of in a bit of a battle to get to the bottom of various. It's been quite a well publicised case with. Failings of the hospital and the police, and you've done stories on Jason. And really, I think how I felt that day was just utter shock, and really just trying to find out why, if I would ever find out why, this would suddenly happen to a seemingly perfectly happy young man. Obviously, whatever caused him to. I'm not wanting to point the finger, but you asked me what I think caused it, and that's my a personal opinion, and I've had expert opinion on it as well, but it may not have been, in all fairness. And it's really, I've done sort of quite a bit of work with Hearts Mind Network to make more people aware that there is help out there. Jason obviously kept it to himself, kept it bottled up, and it really is not the way forward. If you're experiencing any kind of stress, whether it be work-related, school-related, personal pressures, it's always best to talk about it and to seek help.
Karen, thank you. Listen, we have to move on, and it's always... I always feel uncomfortable moving on from these things, but we, of course, are restricted by time. Karen, thank you so much for coming on and speaking so honestly. That's Karen, whose son Jason took his own life 3 years ago, and I do just have to say, just to cover everyone's backside, that opinions were expressed in there, and we haven't got to the other parties to put forward their sides of the story. It's coming up to 8:40. It's Monday, the 10th of September, and Dragon's Den is back on telly. I love Dragon's Den. I genuinely love it. For a long time, and I will say this, Duncan Bannatyne was my gay choice. Totally, he was. Until this series. Did you see it last night? What's he done? He's got hair. I was about to say, what's he done to his hair? Well, he's got hair when before he had no hair. He looks like Ray Reardon. Anyway, I saw a bit of last night. So I saw the end because I knew these guys were coming on. Peter Jones, who lives in Buckinghamshire, invested in 3 young entrepreneurs who were the first successful candidates of the series. Brothers James and Richard Gold were 2 of the candidates, and they're on the line now. Good morning, chaps.
Good morning. Good morning.
Have you noticed Duncan Bannatyne's sudden thick hair on his head?
That's the first thing we actually thought when we went into the den. We couldn't understand it.
I knew you were coming on. I taped it and I forwarded it to your bit. And I watched it. I thought, there's something very different about... He's got thick hair! Bless him. Describe your business, chaps. What is it?
Well, Skinny Dip's a brand of headphones, speakers, phone cases for iPhone, iPad, Kindle, and really what it is taking kind of tech product and making it a little bit more fun and fashionable and creative, making it, selling it into different places to where tech products being sold before, taking it to the high street fashion retailers, which nobody had done before.
All of the Dragons were having a sniff last night. Why do you think they liked you so much?
I don't really know. I think that we,
Skinny Dip was already, quite an established, not really established, but we were in quite a few retailers, and I think they recognised the potential, really. At the same time, we went on there and we were just over the moon to even trying to get one offer for us was like hitting the football pools, and to have the reaction that we had in there was just overwhelming and unbelievable, and we would never have expected it in a million years.
Why did you go with Peter? Because didn't Deborah give you a better offer?
She did. I think when it's really difficult, because it's the most surreal thing in the world being on that show. It's like walking straight into your television set.
Yeah, I bet.
And you go, we went to the back of the room and had these 3 offers, and like I said, we were just hoping to get one at the very and to make a decision there and then. The reason we went with Peter is that he was in the industry. He's been in the industry. He knows our industry, and I think we made the right choice. At the same time, both Deborah and Theo were absolutely lovely to us, and it would have been a pleasure to work with either of them too.
How tall is Peter Jones? He's like the tallest man in the world, isn't he?
He's actually a giant, and his hands are enormous as well.
That's why you picked him.
He really did.
I love it when he stands up because and goes to shake the hand of the winners, because he's
just intimidated. What you don't realise is we're each 6'5".
So he's over 7 foot. James, was it you who was mouthing the pitch?
Do you know what? It was me that was mouthing the pitch. It's the most horrible habit that I've now had to share on national TV. It's been on wedding videos where only a few people have watched it.
For those, let me just explain. For those who didn't see it yet, it was the pitch was going on. Richard and the other fellow were doing the pitch, and you were silently mouthing all of their words as they were doing it. It was wonderful.
It was so embarrassing, and the worst thing is the day before we went on, our parents came in to listen to our pitch, and they were listening, and my mother turns to me and she goes, "Whatever you do, don't you dare mind when you're on television." And I said, "I promise you I won't." And we went on there, and I remember during the pitch, I was looking at each of them, and I saw Duncan, with his luscious mane of hair, look at me and kind of give me a smile. And I couldn't understand why he was smiling.
He thought he was flirting.
At the end,
as he does.
He might have been.
Yeah.
At the end, when Peter turned to me, my first reaction, a 25-year-old man who's meant to run his own business, was, "My mother's going to kill me." And the teasing that I have taken from friends and family in a very short period of time is horrifically embarrassing.
And is there a proper rivalry between the Dragons? Because it's all a bit tense, and it's all a bit, "Oh, you shouldn't have. Why did you do that? Why did you offer 20%?" Is that genuine? Or is it a little bit of showbiz?
To be honest with you, when you go in there, you have no idea you're on a television. It really feels exactly how it comes across on TV. And I think between the Dragons there is rivalry. At the same time, they all seem to kind of, I think they've been together so long. There definitely seems to be a friendship between all of them. But I think when someone goes in, I do think there is an element of competitiveness between them.
So what's next? Very quickly, in 20 seconds, what's next for the business?
We've actually just launched our website online, which is great because all of the products are now offered on our website. And you can find us in a lot of kind of the high street fashion retailers. If you go into Debenhams, River Island, Next, and a few of the other fashion places, you should see some Skinny Dip products. So,
James, Richard, I wish you the very, very best of luck with the business, and thank you for providing wonderful entertainment. In Dragon's Den knocks The Apprentice into a cocked hat, doesn't it? Totally does. I think it's fantastic. We should try and get Duncan Ballantyne on the show one day. I've got his phone number. Yeah, it's about the only celebrity phone number I've got in my phone. He doesn't reply to me anymore either when I text him. He used to reply, he doesn't bother anymore. That was James and Richard Gold, who were on last night's Dragon's Den. Monday the 10th of September, these are your headlines this morning on BBC Three Counties Radio. 700 Olympic and Paralympic athletes will be celebrating a summer of sporting achievement with a victory parade through London today. Chesham and Amersham MP Cheryl Gillen's vowing to be more vocal in her fight to limit HS2's impact on Buckinghamshire now she's no longer a member of the Cabinet. In sport, Stevenage are up to third in football's League One after a 2-1 win at Coventry yesterday. The Borough came from behind to win with goals from Robin Schrute and Marcus Haber. And the weather across the three counties, we're in for a cloudy day with the chance of a few light showers. Top temperature 21 degrees. Coming up, we'll hear what your Olympic highlights have been, and we'll find out what your methods are for stopping babies crying at night.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Jonathan Vernon-Smith is on at 9 o'clock, and I keep saying this, I won't keep saying it, maybe I'll make this the last day, but we do have some new listeners who have very kindly followed me over from the nonsense I used to do. And if you're thinking, oh, Iain finishes at 9, I'll switch off then. Don't. Give Jonathan a little go. He's worth it. Honestly, he's brilliant. No, he's brilliant. I don't say that lightly. He's one of my favourites. Now, calling all parents. Those nights when your kids couldn't sleep, what on earth did you do? How did you get them to sleep? You hear stories about this going on for years. My 8-month-old won't sleep. We're trying the controlled crying thing. It's hard work. Well, our reporter Jenna has been out and she's been asking you for your tips.
Ian, you've got 3 children.
Yep.
I want to find out what your tips are to stop children from crying late at night when they're tired, they're ratty, they don't want to go to bed. How did you cope?
OK, best thing I found was stick them in a room and leave them there and let them cry it out.
Did you find that hard as a parent to just leave the children crying?
I probably should have found it harder than I did, I don't know. No, I mean, in all seriousness, we had this thing called a witching hour between 6 and 7. So all my children go to bed at 7 o'clock. And they all slept through from about 9 weeks. I'm probably not a great expert on this. But they have this thing called the witching hour. So between 6 and 7, we're very tolerant with them. When it comes to 7 o'clock, they know that that's the time they go to bed. So one of the things that we had to do very early on was things like, you called it controlled crying earlier. There's a little bit similar is that you put them to bed, they start crying, you leave them there for a little bit, but when you go back and you don't say anything to them, you just go back and they know they're there, you walk back out again, and you extend those periods of time. So, yeah, I guess we did attempt some kind of controlled crying.
Julie, what are your top tips for getting children to sleep?
We used to take my daughter out in the car when she wouldn't settle, put her in the car seat and drive around the block, and that used to send her off.
And how often did that happen?
Not fairly regularly, maybe once, twice a month, when she wouldn't settle, so...
And did you think that the rhythm of the car moving and...
Yeah, it's just the whole
just
noise.
being outside?
And, it was the noise and, it seemed to soothe her off,
OK, well, I'm Joe Dumont and I have 3 kids. One of them is 7, one's 5, and one of them's 15 months. And I think the mistake that we made with our first child was actually giving in to him too easily. When he couldn't get to sleep, we'd rub his back until he went off again. We were still doing that like 18 months later. And we should have just said no, we'll let him cry through it and eventually he'll settle himself down again. And that's what happened with our next 2, and we haven't had any problems with them. So definitely the thing that I would do is just try and be strong. I know it's tough, you've got a crying baby. Every instinct in your body is telling you to rush out and go to him or her, but no, just leave them, let them sort themselves out.
This driving babies around, it works, but come on, have you seen the price of petrol these days? I can't justify driving the kids around at 2 in the morning to get them to sleep. Dearie me. Hey, listen, Jonathan Vernon-Smith, who's on at 9, came in earlier and said I look like Mr. Shue from Glee. I have Googled Mr. Shue from Glee. I have tweeted a picture of Mr. Shue from Glee. I take that as quite a compliment. He's quite a good-looking gentleman. He's kind of that sort of geek chic is the phrase, I think, isn't it? I quite like that. I've never seen Glee, and I'm praying that as long as I live, I never have to see Glee, because it just sounds absolutely awful. But I can live with that comparison. There are worse people I could be told I look like, don't you think? Listen, thank you so much for all of your tips on helping get my kids to sleep. It's going to be an ongoing saga, I'm afraid. Over the next few weeks, you're going to hear lots of it. The eldest, 2.5, he kind of sleeps through. He's in a big boy bed now. He kind of sleeps through, but it's getting him to sleep is the thing. And the problem we had was when he was a baby, we would rock him to sleep. We'd carry him to sleep. We'd spend hours in his room kind of not shaking him. That makes it sound much more aggressive than it actually was. But kind of carrying him and rocking and singing to him. So that was the only way he'd get to sleep. Now, we have the bath, we get in the bed, he has some milk, and I kind of have to stay in the bed with him until he falls asleep. So, we'll see. We've got, I think, is that Shirley? Hello, Shirley.
Hello.
Shirley and Milton Keynes, how are you this morning? You all right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Oh, you sound flustered. What's going on?
I'm not overly brilliant at the moment, no.
What's wrong? You all right?
I've got a really bad ulcer on the inside of my ankle.
Shirley, what an image for those enjoying their bran flakes.
I know, it is so extremely painful.
Uncomfortable. What do you do with it? Just wash it?
I don't touch it.
Ooh,
no, I have
ooh.
to go to the nurse twice a week.
And what does... I'm going to regret asking this. What does the nurse do to it?
They just clean it and redress it, put fresh dressings on it and everything, you know. But it is so painful.
Oh, bless you, Shirley.
But
well,
never mind.
Never mind.
That's not why we've phoned.
Onwards and upwards. What have you got for us?
Yes, exactly. The crying babies.
Yes.
I mean, my youngest is now 40, so they're all grown up. And I have 3 children. But my first instinct...
I don't want my boys to be 40. I want them to be 2.5 and 8 months. I want them to stay like that.
No, I know. It's hard. It's hard when they're growing up.
I just thought, when my youngest is 40, I'll be 79.
Oh, my
goodness!
Well, I'm heading towards 70, I'll tell you.
You sound very sprightly for a 70-year-old, apart from that horrible foot of yours. Anyway, Shirley, go on, sorry.
However, my first instinct was always to make sure that there was never any underlying problem why they were crying.
Of course.
It could be that they're thirsty, could be teething, maybe perhaps got a bit of wind. But I never ever.
Oh, look, Shirley, let me interrupt. The kids next door who helped produce this show, and I use the word produce with a very small p. You said winding; they all burst into giggles. It's part of growing up. Of course it is.
Wind can be so extremely painful, especially it's bad enough for us if we get it. But
dear.
For a baby, it is so extremely painful.
I used to...
bright water was a godsend.
I used to find... The second one doesn't need winding so much, but the first one, I used to find it like playing a video game, winding him, because if I got one out... But I could feel if there was a second one in there. Getting that second one out, when it comes out, yes, that's a result.
Yeah,
that's a result.
exactly.
I wish someone would wind me, put me over their shoulder and rock me back and forth and pat my back.
Oh, dear.
Maybe I'll ask Jonathan.
Conjures up a thought in the mind.
But yeah, so you're right, and it is hard to tell if they're teething or if there's some kind of physical thing that's wrong with them, perhaps.
It is, and I think that's always, you know, you can't just, if they cry, just first of all say, no, we'll leave them.
Yeah.
Because you need to check in case there is an underlying problem.
Of course you do. Shirley, listen, good luck with your horrible foot. I hope it gets sorted out. Thank you so much. Shirley and Milton Keynes. Laughing at winding, for goodness sakes. Well, the greatest Paralympic Games ever. Those are the words of Sir Philip Craven, the International Paralympic Committee President. London 2012 came to an end last night with a spectacular closing ceremony for the Paralympics. Our reporter Jenna Benson has been very busy this morning. She's been out in the 3 counties to talk to you about your Olympic highlights.
My name's Melvin Beaumont.
I'm Jeanette Beaumont.
Did you enjoy and watch the Olympics and the Paralympics?
Yes, it was very good, very good. I was looking forward to the run-up anyway, but yeah, I thought it was very good.
For me, it was how it showed you the people that took part, especially in the Paralympics, how they achieved what they did with all their disabilities was fantastic, I think.
Fantastic. Yeah. It to me, it just brought everyone together, and it was, miles better than what I could have expected, but the Olympics was fantastic, and the Paralympics, well, it makes you very grateful to be who you are, and I just take my hat off to those people, I really, really do.
It's all over now. Are you feeling a sense of loss?
Obviously, initially, I suppose you must do, but when the closing ceremony did say that this is to be passed on and it's to be appreciated worldwide, so hopefully this will be the case, and more so in the country that actually did it. I thought it was brilliant. Zebco saying "Made in Britain" was brilliant. Just about the right words, captured it fantastically.
And what are you looking forward to next in 2012? Is there anything left to look forward to?
Yes, I think if people have got the spirit anyway, and if they carry on taking it forward, introduce it to the children, and if everyone in the communities, you know, with schools, if everyone keeps that, then we can keep going forward.
I thought the whole thing from start to finish, the Olympics, the Paralympics, I thought it did Britain proud, actually.
And what did you enjoy the most about the Olympics and the Paralympics?
I think the spirit in which it was carried out, so the way that the athletes competed, the respect that they showed for each other. I think it teaches a lot of other sports a lot of lessons about how competitive sport can be. I thought the crowds were amazing. I mean, I actually went to a couple of events and they were fantastic.
What are we going to talk about? Now the Olympics and the Paralympics are over, what are we going to do? I think tomorrow's show we'll talk about the parade. Did you go? Was it good? And then Wednesdays, there's nothing. That's it. I think we all quit. Don't we? It has been fantastic. I'd suggest that we'd reached the tipping point in terms of sports coverage, and it's ended at the right time. But it has been cracking, hasn't it? If you didn't go to anything, more for you. I bought a ticket for the Paralympics, 15 quid. They gave me a travel card as well, so it cost me a £5 basically. And even me, Mr. Grumpy, I was on my way there and it was getting busier and busier. I'm thinking, do you know what? I don't think I can stomach these crowds. I think I'm going to turn back home and go home. And then I got off the train and it's all the helpers all being very friendly, and as soon as I got in there, just wonderful, just fantastic, absolutely superb. If you're going to the parade today, enjoy yourself, have a cracking time. I'm sure it'll be absolutely wonderful. I'm a little bit envious I can't go, really. Never mind. I'll be dozing. Working for tomorrow's show. Thank you so much to everyone who took part in the show today. The whole point of this show is that you get to come and have your say and have your opinion heard. We may scorn it if it's nonsense, but we'll have a listen. I'm back tomorrow at 6. Stick around, because after the news, it's Jonathan Vernon-Smith.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.